3, 2, 1, and we're live. Hey, welcome to the Freeborn Podcast. This is the third episode we've done this week. So I had a little time off, so I got a whole bunch of people to come on. I'm always amazed when anybody will come on the show at all, especially anybody from church. You'd think they'd hear enough of me and seen enough of me, but they keep wanting to come in. Today, I have with me a big friend. I mean an old friend. I mean a good friend. I have a good friend with me from a long time ago. He's been in the church since the time we started on the south side, way back, and he was willing to come in, which I'm real happy for because he was on the SAPD for 25 years. He's retired SAPD. He was there for 25 years. He was there for almost 2 years with the patrol with the sheriff with Bexar County.
Before, I worked in the jail for 2 years, 11 months.
Yeah, so he was Bexar County, then he went to SAPD, and so I got him on because I wanted to talk to him a little bit about the George Floyd and the what's it called, the riots and all of that going on, but then also just policing as a Christian. I'm real interested. We've discussed it some before, but I'm real interested in talking to you about that and get your perspective on that as a Christian. So this is Albert Silva, by the way. I don't know if I was going to have like blur out your face and make it like from the witness protection program.
There you go.
They just don't make a disguise big enough for you, Albert.
Yeah. I forgot your spit sock, by the way.
I see how it is, Albert. Anyways, no, really, thank you for coming on. No, in all seriousness, I'm real happy you were able to get over here. And why don't you tell me a little bit how you got into the SAPD, and we'll start there.
Okay, well, I was down at the courthouse. It actually started because I was with the sheriff's office. So what happened was I was down at the courthouse. I was taking care of some business down there, and there was a little piece of paper on the wall that said, accepting applications for a detention guard or detention officers. I can't remember how it was, exactly written out. But so I filled out the 1 or 2 page application. It was real simple back then. And a few weeks later, I was sitting in the sheriff's academy there at the main jail. That's where they used to have the classes. And so I got started there, and a group of guys, after a couple of years, everybody's always looking, maybe to do something a little different. The group of guys wanted to go out and apply for they heard that the city was accepting applications, and back then you used to have to spend the night at the substation, which was East Patrol out there on Houston Street, and said, hey, we're all going to go hang out and apply and see if we can get in. So I got talked into it because just like with the deal with the sheriff's office, and I really wasn't sure if that's what I wanted to do. I had a perfectly good job. I worked at Kelly. It was at the time that was good money, and I went for it. I said, okay, I'll hang out. I just happened to walk across these group of guys. They're my friends. I could have been diverted anywhere and walked into the cafeteria, but which is unusual. I don't usually pass up cafeterias.
Yeah, I was going to say that's so, that was a miracle from God.
That's right. Yeah, I really do believe that because I walked straight into these guys and they were all conversing about, they were conversating.
They were conversating. Yes, they were conversating. That's right.
They were talking about, hanging out and going out because you had to spend the night there. And so that's what we did. They convinced me to go. At the time, I was driving, I think, a Isuzu Rodeo. So we piled in, and we all went together. Some of us went, in a couple of cars, but it was 5, 8, 10 of us. I don't remember. So anyhow, you apply, you go through the whole process. Out of we were going to all be in the academy together. We're going to have a great time. We're just going to, and I was the only one that made it. I was really not happy. It's not what I wanted to, I thought to myself, man, I gave up a perfectly good job. I'm in the first day of the police academy. They're yelling at me. They're not, I guess I took it personal
because they were yelling fatso or why?
Yeah.
Is that why?
Yeah, that's, oh boy, yeah.
It's gonna be a long night.
Okay, so let's talk about fatso a little bit. So it's a funny story because as you're going through the process, you have to, do the paperwork, pass the written exam, and then you go take the physical. And I kid you not, one of the guys, and I don't remember who he was We were in the back of the substation there at East Patrol, and you had to run so many times around the parking lot. You know, you had to do it in a certain amount of time, and I threw up. And the guy said, "Well, go pack it up, fat boy. You're not going to make it in my academy." And I'm thinking to myself, "Wow," because the run was the first part. Then you had to go do the sit-ups, push-ups, and everything else. And well, I made it. I don't know how, but I made it. But it's funny that you should say fat boy because, yeah, okay, it is what it is. Nobody can, beat my,
So you got through the academy and
so I started my career. So, okay, so to mix in my Christianity with policing is that I got saved in 1987. So that was...
Was that before you were in the academy? You got saved?
Yes.
So you went in. You started the academy what year? Or what year did you graduate?
SAPD Academy was 93. So that's when I started the city working for the police department or a cadet. But I got saved in 1987. For 6 months I ran around. 1987 didn't get fed spiritually. And went back to the world. But I believe that God still had his hand in my life because, if you knew me, I'm not the best student in the world. I don't pay attention. It takes a lot to keep me focused on one thing.
Well, me and Terry were talking that we might need to do like they do in the police station at the interview table and have handcuffs and like cuff you down because we figured you'd be bouncing around the room by the time we were done.
I'm trying to sit still. Yeah. So, I'm just a terrible student. And so for me to go through a whole academy for 6 months, and not just worried about my physical part of it. You've got all kinds of other tactics and learning how to shoot. I had somewhat knowledge because of the sheriff's office, but it's different. And then academics, of course, and trying to keep that GPA just high enough so they don't boot you out the door. And strangely enough, I actually did pretty good. I don't remember what number I was at, but I kept about an 89 to 90 average, which is really weird for me. It just happened that way. Even my final exam.
So it's really this career path just really clicked for you. It was the right fit for you then at the time.
I believe that the way they presented the material, you had to read it. The senses. I don't remember exactly how they put it, but you had to read it, hear it. So while they were actually reading it to us, I remember going through the penal code, going through, the different classes. It was read to us, but at the same time, we read along with them. And then we'd have study groups afterwards, and we'd pretty much studied the same way. And so it was unusual for me because, like I said, I'm not a good student, but I stayed on track because I like eating. So I figured if I lose this job, I'm going to be really poor.
And so when you go in the academy, it's not like you're looking at this as like your lifelong calling. This isn't what you dreamed of being your whole life. But you had an opportunity. You go in, it clicks for you, and you're out on and then you're in the. And so where do you start out? You start on dog watch. Where do you start out on that?
Well, when they send you out what they call your field training. So you're going to ride along on different shifts with a field training officer. So you ride. You have at the time was 17 weeks. So you rode different shifts, and then they just give you a shift. So because some of the guys out of my class ended up on daylight, so you don't just start on dog watch. I did. I did 2 years on South Patrol dog watch, which I enjoyed it. I wanted to be on the south side. It was close to my home at that time, and I trained in what we call North Patrol. It was a slap in the face because I went from burglar alarms, barking dog.
Oh, you're saying going from north to south was the slap in the face?
Yes, that's what I meant. Yeah. So
okay, I got you.
So through my training, my 3 phases of training, it was North Patrol. Just different, barking dogs, burglar alarms, things, false burglar alarms. It was hardly ever, we had a little bit of action, not too much. Then to go to South, they sent me to South Dog Watch, which is overnight. And so my second.
Well, how quickly was it like a change? Like the first night, was it?
Well, yeah, first of all, I'm the worst person. I'm probably about as bad as you are as far as directions go. And there was no GPS.
Hey, keep it on yourself.
So there was no GPS. We used to use the maps, the paper. So oh my goodness, it was horrible. So I actually, was calling people. Like, we had, cell phones, so, big giant cell phones. And I'm like, I don't know where I'm at. I'm trying to find it. And I can still tell you which street it was called. It's called Return Street. So Return is actually right there, Pleasanton Road, Grapeland. It's just a little tiny street, and it was a shooting. It wasn't my first night. It was the second night. I get there, and there's 3 guys with bullets in their legs. And I'm like, oh, my goodness. And the old-timers kind of looked at me and said, hey, they just handed me these little sheets of paper, just the info they got. And EMS is taking people in all different directions. And I'm like, oh, man. And I had one of my old classmates, I won't say his name, but he kind of looked at me kind of funny and just, and he was a smart guy. He was one of the smart guys in my class. And he just kind of smirked at me, and I felt abandoned. He didn't even lift a finger to say, hey, let me help you out. Nothing. I was lost.
So they just threw you in the deep end right there.
Oh, yeah. So there was one guy who come up and started, hey, let me help you. And he had been there in South for a while, and I think he saw that I was in need of some guidance. Yeah. So anyhow, where are we going with this?
Well, I just was kind of curious how that all worked out. So you're there, you're in the you start off, you're now on South side. Yeah.
So dog watch was I wanted to actually go into the afternoon shift, what they call B shift. It didn't work out. I ended up going to the day shift. I met a couple guys, say, hey, you should come daylight. It's easy. I just didn't, I didn't want to lose what we call, night differential to pay, but I ended up going to the day shift after about 2 years, and I stayed there pretty much until 2011 when I got on what we call CRT, which is the Crisis Response Team, which it's a program that assists victims of family violence.
So your whole career, you were basically working in the streets, right? You never got
patrol,
in.
Right?
Yeah, you're in patrol though, your whole
right,
career on that.
18 years, yeah.
Yeah,
that's about right. Yeah.
Towards the end, you were doing where you were dealing with the family violence stuff, right?
That's
More of
CRT.
Office work, right? Okay,
right.
That's right.
Yeah,
you dealt with a lot of people in that, and
a lot different than patrol, because you go on patrol. You go from accident report, burglaries to family violence cases to what have you. Where in CRT, you just dealt with victims of family violence, and that was it.
And when you were working then, before that, when you were working in patrol, did you have a lot of action as far as a lot of dealing with a lot of arrests or that kind of stuff?
Yeah, everybody when they start out, say the new broom always sweeps really good, and you just and you do what you do, and it was it was actually fun. Hey, let's get the bad guy. Had one of my guys. My classmates, we were, we just kind of palled around. You just find somebody your personalities click. You like to do the same things and make arrests, go knock down, I don't want to say knock down doors, but, go get the guys with warrants. It's changed, though. It used to be you could just go, you see, you look on the list. Hey, this guy.
We'll talk about that in a minute. I do want to get into that. But so you have quite a bit of experience with dealing with people who don't want to be arrested.
Oh, yeah.
People that are hiding, people that are, I remember you talking about a guy that was up in the attic and you could see his butt sticking out of the insulation or something. I don't know if you remember that story.
Like that. Okay. There's probably a different mix of those, but I do remember one situation where I was running and this, I know you're gonna capitalize on this. As I'm running, the fence is actually getting closer to the house. So I don't know if it was the fence or it was me, but anyhow, it was pitch black, and I'm thinking, I'm chasing this guy for a darn VCR. And I couldn't see anymore. My flashlight were those old giant flashlights that, 3 feet, it just didn't work that well. And I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing back here? I'm by myself. I got excited, and I said, well, I'm going to turn around and get out of here. That's not worth. And so we ended up finding the guy in the attic. Yeah, but that's how that story started.
And tell me a little bit. Tell us how you found the guy in the attic.
Okay, so the one. So there was 2 stories, but it wasn't actually insulation. It was clothing.
Okay.
Yeah, it was clothing, and you could actually see his low cut blue jeans and a little bit of.
A little bit of crack.
Yeah. Okay, you want to call it? You said it's your show.
It's my show. It's all right.
It's okay to say crack. Okay, I didn't know.
PG-45.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it was, but those are stories you can look back on and enjoy the. Okay, it was. We made it home that night. Hey, it was cool. Remember that guy? You can talk about. just that knowing that not trying to sound like, I don't know what the word is, all mushy or whatever, but it really was a good feeling to say, hey, I got this dirt bag off the street. Excuse my language, but it is what it is. These guys are, you're on one side of the fence, they're on the other. They're doing bad, and you're trying to do good. And
well, I would say that you correct me because I have no experience. I've never been a policeman. My father-in-law was an ex-policeman. You know that. Of course, he's from a generation prior to you, pretty much, right? But I don't have any personal experience. But it seems to me that if you're going to be a policeman, you are basically anyone who you have a warrant on, or that has been accused of a crime that you're supposed to bring them in. You have to consider that they're armed, dangerous,
all the time,
that they're the worst, even if it's not the case. But you have to go and approach it that way, don't you?
Right. If they're sitting down and they got hands up, or they're you learn to read body language, but you never trust 100%, because I've had guys say, hey man, you know what? I've actually had a guy said, I want to turn myself in. This is no lie. And then he ran from me after he wanted to turn it. I guess he at the last moment he thought, you know what? I don't want to do this, and took off running. So, it could have been anything else. Instead of running, he could have decided, hey, I'm gonna shoot you. It could have been anything. But yeah, you always have to be thinking that, hey, you know what? This could go bad really quick. And so many times when you just think that, hey, this was the nicest guy in the world, he gets out, you cuff him, no problem. And then you hear the stories later. Hey, you know what? It wasn't, not personally, but you hear those where the guy's plan was to kill the policeman, and he just at the last minute changed his mind. But yeah, you always go into it with that frame of mind that, hey, but at the same time we need to control what we do.
Well, see, that to me seems like it'd be really, really hard to be in the mentality that this guy could kill me. Yeah. And at the same time, you have to protect and serve, and that includes that guy. Yeah. Isn't that hard to balance that?
Oh, yes. So, not to get into a whole bunch of war stories, but several times you get there, you break up a fight, and then you end up fighting with the guy, right? So you end up getting one guy down, and now you're having to protect him because now he's cuffed, and the other guy is still, maybe you haven't got him subdued yet, and now he's trying to wail on the guy that you've, basically just helped him, get some free shots in. So now you got to protect the guy that just punched you in the face.
You mean like if two guys are fighting, right, and you break up the fight, you arrest, you cuff one, and then the other one will want to keep up the fight.
How many times I don't know if you've ever been in a fight, but I've seen it before. Everybody jumps on you to try and, hey, stop the fight. But while they're holding your hands or trying to stop you, well, you're leaving the other guy, for get some free shots in. So so the guy I'm saying is the same guy that's punched you, while you're trying to cuff him. Now you gotta have to defend him because you think about it, just like, yeah, have at it. He just punched me in the nose. Give him a few licks there. Pay him back. I don't have to do it, but that's not the way. You've got to turn that switch from 100 miles an hour to stop. And there's something to be said about that type of thinking. It's hard, and I know I don't know. If you have to kind of laugh it off and don't get angry, because when you get mad, that's when it can get bad.
And so, in your time on the force, have you seen have you seen or experienced cases where guys have been in bad situations, done something they shouldn't have, and got in trouble from it? Have you had any experience of seeing that with other people?
I think to say that I've witnessed and then say, wow, I saw something they shouldn't have done, and then them get in trouble for it, no. But I've seen things that shouldn't have been done, and things back in the 90s, it was a different world back then. This thing here did not exist, and so I guess the big I guess if you saw a big giant video camera, it looked like a boombox, and you maybe you'd have something to worry about. But it was just to say that it was different because that's what we wanted, or that's how that's the way it should be. Oh, no, I'm not trying to justify it. It shouldn't have been that way. But there were things that people got did that they should have. And at both ends too, not just as a policeman that maybe gets angry and cuts loose, or sometimes even the bad guys get away with things because there was no video cameras, So, but yeah, it was different. Answer your question.
Yeah. So, like I listened to my father-in-law stories. I kind of thought about getting him on here, but I mean, he has some brutal stories.
Right. Yeah.
And so I assume that policing changed dramatically from his time to your time.
Absolutely.
And it's changed dramatically since then to now, or is that the case?
Oh yeah. So, yeah, in his time, I mean, I think he retired in 1980s, right?
88 maybe, I think it was.
Yeah.
80, 89, 90, somewhere in there.
So he came on in the 60s,
Wasn't he 15 years
70s.
or 17 years or something like that?
Yeah, so the nightstick was a big thing, I mean, it was not uncommon to just get wailed on just because, if you ran today, if you run for me, you're not going to get beat up. You're not going to, well, anybody run for me, they're not going to get anything.
They're going to get away.
They're going to get away, exactly. But we weren't taught to, if a guy's evading, to go catch him and then start thumping on him. That's not the way the academy taught you. You get them, subdue, and be done with it. Now, if they start fighting, well, then you've got to take the appropriate action, and you've got to defend yourself now. So,
are there rules?
Oh, yes,
even
absolutely.
in that case, of what you can do to defend yourself if you're in a fight? Do they have restrictions on?
Yeah,
what you can do?
if you're both going toe to toe, you're not gonna start choking him out or start eye gouging. Now if you're gonna, our instructors were if you feel that your life is about to be taken out, you do what you got to do. If you feel like you're about to be choked out and maybe get put to sleep, then you do what you got to do to stay alive. But the instructors with the SAPD never taught us to use deadly force. There's certain strikes. You don't break arms. You don't hyperextend people's elbows. Just if it's not necessary, If he's,
so in a, let's say you're fighting someone who's 6'4" and weighs 220 pounds,
mm-hmm.
and there's two or three of them. They are willing to do anything they can to kill you.
Right.
But you can't do anything formally, right? I understand that you might get to a point where you say, I'm going to survive. I don't care what I have to do. Right. But legally, your training is you can't do anything you want to do.
Yeah, I can't do just what I want to. It's not the wild, wild west. It's nothing like that. Each case is different. If I'm handling a guy that's 6'4", I'm probably going to
push the boundaries a little bit.
Yeah, or if I'm not that super aggressive, I'm going to bounce around him until my help gets there. And that's how we try to handle things. You're not going to, it's still an unarmed person. Now, if he gets a hold of you and he's trying to grab your pistol or trying to take, if he's just overwhelming you, that you believe that he's probably gonna, or he or she, could be a she, gonna take you out, and if you go under, he's probably gonna kill you. Then you take the appropriate measures. Yeah, so it's something that always crossed my mind. But working on, even though it's a South Side, but it has, each side of town has their little reputation. But whatever, it was daylight. It happened. Sometimes they'll say it hit the fan, but it was always still in the back of my mind. But we really, went through our days relatively, peaceful. Like I said, we had our moments, but it never did not cross my mind. Even going to the doors, it's simple disturbance. I don't know how many times you hear that. You think it's nothing. You get there, and it's like, wow, how did this all occur from two people arguing?
So when you look at these videos, like I sent you a bunch of links of videos I dug up. I'm sure you've seen others, and they're all over now, right?
Yeah.
There's the thing in Minneapolis. So when you look at that, I look at it and I have a certain take on it. But what's always amazed me when I've talked to you about things like this, because we've discussed these type of things before, is that you usually have a very different perspective than what I would have expected, and that I think most people would expect. So when you look at those videos, just walk me through what your impression is. And I know you're not there. I'm not asking you to second guess them necessarily, but just when you look at it, what's your take on what you're seeing with this case with George Floyd?
Well, the first thing that I saw was that it looked good. They sat him down, they, take him to the car. That just looks, routine. Now, we don't like to use that word routine because that's, again, you're getting away from, anything could happen at any time. But
it's putting yourself to sleep if you think of routine.
Exactly.
You want to be always on your toes, right?
Right, yeah. So it's something that, but you look at it and it looks good. I kind of don't understand. I know there was some scuff, maybe some little bit of resistance there, but then it goes to that one part where he's the officer's on his, it's got his knee on his neck, or I guess it's the neck, right? Mm-hmm. So when the guy says I can't breathe, I mean, he's already cuffed. He's tapped out. He's basically said, "Hey, you got me," and I think at that point, and I know at least a couple guys that vouch for me that say, "Hey, you know what? You've been there in that situation and slowed me down." Same thing with it just anything else. Having to drive fast past the speed limit because you want to get there. If you don't, there's no saying don't become part of the problem, or don't get there where I'm coming to help you out and I'm speeding through and I'm burning these intersections, blowing those red lights. I get into an accident. Well, now I just caused somebody else some issues, or myself, and then I was no good to you. So anyhow, the guy, said, I'm not in his brain. I don't know what he was thinking. Obviously, he probably wasn't thinking, but he certainly, it's not something that that any normal, any person in their right state of mind is any officer in their right state of mind is going to deliberately do. I just cannot see that. And when you play it over and over and you see that, and it's like, what are you thinking? That's what was it, 9 minutes?
Yeah, he was on him for like 3 minutes after he was or 2 minutes after he was non-responsive. He was on him for
Okay, so you ask yourself what you trying to get in that, trying to think from that his perspective. What are you thinking? There's no fight anymore. There's this guy. Okay, he did what he did. Whatever it was, I think it was passing counterfeit bills or something.
Yeah, or a check. It's kind of cloudy. Yep. I haven't got good at it's either a counterfeit 20 or a bad check or something like that.
Yeah, and I've been a little busy this past few days, so I haven't sat down and just listened to the meat and potatoes.
One of the things about it, and this is what I see when I look at it. You have they got him out of the car, and like you say, it looks standard operating procedure, right? They got him out of the car. They take him over. They sit him down against the sidewalk for a while, get his information. Then they walk him across the street. And all of that's coming from the video cameras of a store, the security cameras from a store right there. And that guy released that footage himself on the internet, the owner of the store. That's where that footage came from. The authorities of Minneapolis asked him not to, and he did anyways. But here's one issue I had with this. It cuts off right when they get him to the car, and he's on the driver's side, which is the sidewalk side of that car across the street, which is the cop car. And then we don't have any footage of what happens, or at least I haven't seen any yet, of any footage of what happens from that point, how he ends up on the opposite side of that car, laying on the ground.
Yeah, I saw the little bit of it looked like you could see his legs shooting out towards the street, and then next to that, and then you see the other scene where he's on his neck. Okay, so regardless, there's not only that guy's on his neck. There's two other policemen holding his whole body down. Because you can't see it from the one angle, but they have another lady that was filming with her phone. Yeah. And facing like the back of those officers, and then you see there's actually 3 cops that are holding him down, not just the one. Right. Yeah, and there's just no, this guy could have done the most heinous crime there is. He's already, you've got him under control, and you got to hurry up and slow down. Okay, let's we've got him. Let's, probably the best thing to do, is get him up, stick him back in that patrol car, or at least have him sit down. If he's kicking the doors or causing damage to the police car, then you call a wagon and you have them.
What's a wagon? So that people know.
The old paddy wagon, or it's transport, but in a van, or it's not like a regular patrol car. Excuse me.
And it's easier to get them in those, or what?
Yeah, because there's wider doors, and there's it's just what we if they start kicking the sides or whatever, it's not going to do any damage because they're fortified. They've got extra steel paddle
plating,
right, and maybe some bars on the windows, so they're not going to do any damage. They might hurt themselves, but they're not going to hurt the vehicles, and that's normally what you want to do in a guy that's just so belligerent and crazy that you just have to. But there was no fight. There was no fight whatsoever, and it's I hate the what's that, an armchair quarterback? But
yes,
stuff like this, not just here, but any time that there's some type of officers using force beyond what is necessary, it sets us back. It sets policing back. I had a friend tell me today, and he's a big supporter. In fact, we took the test together, and it's funny because he's got all kinds of degrees, and he's a physical therapist, and he's got a couple, different careers. But I say, I don't care. I beat you by 2 points on the test. It doesn't matter. But he's a huge supporter of law enforcement. He is he's always calling just to see if I'm okay. So I've been friends with this guy since third grade, and he said today, he goes, man, this guy just said policing back 50 years. He goes, this is not something that should be happening today. And, our training is, here in SAPD, the sheriff's office, it's, because in the sheriff's office, you have guys that work in the jail, and those guys are absolutely, because it's all hands on. It's all mano a mano inside the jail, and there's no, they're taught to hurry up and slow down. It's not, just go toe to toe and start swinging fists. That's not what you do. You take control, you subdue, and you slow everything down quick. So you're not going to go and abuse somebody just because you got mad because you got a couple of good shots on you. That's not the way it works. And somebody does that, it's career ending out on the street or inside the. In the detention center. So our law enforcement around here, I think they like us. I was, well, I'm not going to point out any particular department, but I was somewhere else at one time and in uniform, and it was not this city. And I would wave to people. I'm used to San Antonians and people here in Bexar County. They like us. And we have a pretty good community, and for the most part, we have our people. We have people that don't like for whatever reason, but for the most part, you get the waves, you get the thumbs up, you get we back the blue. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's like that everywhere in the United States, and I guess you can just
things like this certainly don't help it.
No. And it's I've been there when I hear, oh my goodness, why would you do that?
Have you heard anyone actually try to defend him? Because I haven't.
Well, yes, I take it back. I did hear some, but they were just trying to defend the fact that the autopsy did not prove asphyxiation. That's the only thing I heard. Something on the radio, but it wasn't.
But I haven't heard
what he did.
Usually when you have something similar to this, where you have someone dies in police custody or somebody, ends up with in the hospital after being in police custody, I almost always will hear a contingent of people that will defend and say, hey, he's this, he did this.
Yeah, wasn't that? Yeah.
But I have not seen this in this case.
Yeah, so it wasn't defending what the officer did.
One is the video was so long.
Yeah.
Unedited and brutal to watch. I mean, It just turned my stomach to watch it.
Yeah, and it's sad. It's sad. So, yeah, as far as defending him, what he did, his actions, no. I think this one particular person either was a police officer or had just for some reason felt that, hey, he didn't die from this. It was his pre-existing conditions or whatever, and they can't prove asphyxiation. Well, if he had not been, confronted by police officers that day, would he still be alive? I don't know. I mean, that's regardless. I mean, it just doesn't look good regardless. If this guy was still alive today, that would be still a horrible thing to see. Is you just, smashing his neck with your knee. It just looks bad. And you then, along with two other officers holding you down when you're not fighting back. I can't breathe, or whatever he was saying. It just looks bad. And that's not something.
And is that technique, if you want to call it, that they were using on him, is that, I know you can't speak for them, but for SAPD,
No.
Is that at all in your repertoire of tricks?
No.
Officially?
I was never taught that when I was employed as a San Antonio police officer. Not at all.
Even back when it was a little more tough.
Not
than
at
it
all.
is now.
Not at all. Yeah. There was no chokeholds.
What is the official, and for SAPD, because we can't, I mean, every police department I assume has little differences, but for your training, if you're there, what would be the textbook way of handling that situation?
Well, I forget everything as time goes by, but it certainly wouldn't have been torturing this guy, holding him down, causing him to, I can't say that it caused him because, the autopsy says different, but getting to that point, you're not going to sit on somebody's neck. Officers, if you deal with an officer on the street, unless he's just a bad apple, you're going to get cuffed. You're going to get either sat up. They're going to talk to you. They're maybe try and get some information from you, and they're going to stick you in the car quickly. Because they're nice guys. I don't know. Of course, now everybody has body worn cams, so that helps us. That keeps us honest, if you will, and it's a good thing. It really is a good thing for both sides. Because there's on the other side, there's a lot of citizens that come out and for some reason they just say, hey, this officer did this, this, and that. And the cameras are, they are a lifesaver, a career saver in many instances. And I hear it all the time. Hey, you know what? Camera proved that whatever you said is absolutely a lie. And the career goes on and that person, goes about their, trying to figure out another way to, make a police officer's life miserable.
So when I'm looking at that, and when I'm looking at that situation on those videos and everything, how much of this do you think is a result of the crowd? And I'm not blaming the crowd, but I'm saying the crowd is just going at, hey, let him up. And I'm not saying they shouldn't have been doing it, but how likely is it or possible is it in your mind that hardened these officers, and they out of pride did not want to let go?
Yeah, without thinking for them, that does. I can see, even myself, who's like, I don't like to be. I'm non-confrontational in a lot of ways. I mean, I'm going to be the first one if there's something going down. I want to be there. But at the same time, if I can avoid that escalation, I will. But I've had people try to tell me because so we're what we call type A personalities. You want to get in there, the police officer, and what do? We want to take control. Sit down. Let me see your hands. Don't move. Shut up. And so, for somebody to tell us what to do, it does get under your skin a little bit. It gets under your badge. You want to say, whoa, I'm running this show. Nobody's going to tell me how to do it. I'm not saying in that situation, but I can see, that happening to somebody who doesn't, again, hurry up and slow down. Start thinking rather than, just reacting. And it's just like somebody, oh, man, you get into a little push and shove match. Oh, you're gonna let him do that too? And then those things get, your emotions get wound up. And I think that's what happened was, again, I don't want to talk for them, but I think that can happen.
We're sitting on the couch. We're doing Monday morning quarterbacking. I understand that, but it seemed that way to me. When I looked at it, I'm thinking, I bet if this crowd is not there, and I'm not blaming the crowd, but I bet if the crowd is not there, I don't see it going that long like that.
I think there's probably some truth to that. It's just It's just a shame that it.
Yeah, it's
it
not
played
that
out.
it doesn't excuse it at all. I'm not excusing anything. I'm just trying to analyze, how because you have to think about it in these. One theory is this policeman is this way all the time and he does this all the time. I don't find that very likely, but maybe right.
Yeah.
It could be. Or the other is something was different in this situation and he acted differently than he would have normally acted.
Yeah. So I guess like you were telling me earlier today, these two guys had history together. They worked at a club or something.
Well, there's a connection.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any evidence yet come out. And again, I didn't really track it very closely today like I had a couple days for the last few days.
Uh-huh.
But up to where I was tracking it, they worked at the same club, but there's no evidence that they actually knew each other. And when I look at the videos, it doesn't look to me like he walks up to the car and it doesn't look like they know each other, right? I don't see anything in the video where it seems to me that they're behaving as if they knew each other. Doesn't mean anything because the video is not great and you don't have audio and things, but it seems to me that there would be some type of back and forth between them if they actually had worked together, working because they both work security at the same club, but it doesn't mean they actually knew each other.
Yeah, even an acquaintance would,
you would think you'd see you'd think you'd see some type of a recognition between them, and I don't notice that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
There are people. There are some people. I mean, I talked to one on Sunday who thinks that this was just because they had a beef and the guy was taking it out on him. I don't see that in there. What about this? One thing is you got the cop and he's the one that initiated the arrest and had him in cuffs and everything. He's the one on his neck. Okay, but when you look at this and you see, I can almost kind of understand how that could happen, and you could be so.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't know how, I've never been a cop, so I don't know if this works, but with me, it's like with my kids, I could get so angry or so irritated that then it's just really hard for me. But then, if my wife is there, like he has his partners are there, the other guys are there, how does none of them?
Yeah.
I mean, what about that?
So, so you're an equal, and it's hard to, tell somebody who's equal, hey, it just depends. I've had guys that I can tell them, hey, you need to slow down when you're driving because, man, we don't get there, we're going to be part of the problem, or we're not going to be any help to the guys we're trying to get to. And then there's just I just don't understand why they didn't. Like I said, I know two guys that I can think of top of my head that I can recall certain instances where I've told them, hey, you're in daylight now. Slow down. Don't do that. And because it could get bad. Being heavy-handed. Maybe on the overnight shift, might be able to get away with it more. I don't know.
And what's the reaction you get when you in those cases you do that? What's the reaction you get?
Face to face. All right. Okay. Well, I actually, my good friend, we laughed it off. He goes, "Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. What they say behind your back, maybe they called me a chicken. Maybe, this dude, I don't know. There's, I've been there. I was like, man, I can't believe you didn't you didn't take action. You froze or whatever it was. It's just that mentality, that why didn't you, the guy was doing this. You appropriately could have done that, and you didn't. You didn't take that, those necessary steps, whatever it is. But yeah, the reaction usually was, both times I said that I can recall, it was, hey, you're right. And then later on they come back, hey, thanks, man, and especially my one good friend. We tell that story all the time. Remember that one time? Yeah. Whew, it could have gotten bad. He could have gone beyond what he needed to. He didn't do anything, but it could have. It
could have. It was
easily
close.
Yes, right. It could, but no, for sure, it could have, gone someplace where it didn't need to go.
And let's assume you're there in that situation, and you're not the one holding him down. You're the guy standing there in the crowd. I mean, what do you see you could have done if you would have been there? What would you? I'm not saying in that situation, but in someone like that, what do you do as an officer? If you're an officer, you're looking at that. What is something you could do?
Well, here in this area, in my town, the uniforms that I've worn, hey, I certainly would. Hey, I'm not trying to get in. I guess I'm say it the way I would actually say it if I was talking to him. Hey, you know what? I'm off duty. Just want to let you know this guy is. His eyes are starting to roll, or his lips are turning blue, or whatever it is. Man, is there anything I can do to help out? Can I help you? Can I, do you, of course, you got 4 or 5 guys, or 4 guys out there already helping. You don't have much time to think, and I really believe that seeing that would have been, it would have been a bad thing to witness for sure. But as far as the trying to get involved with other officers, you have to think, what am I going to say without them turning on me, and say, hey, shut up. Okay, then you would have.
But what could have the officers that were there, the 4, what could the other 3 have done?
I thought myself as an off-duty seeing that. Okay,
no.
So, they could have easily, if they were not aware of what's going on, I don't know, but if he was audible enough to say, I can't breathe, I certainly would have thought that, hey, you know what, maybe this guy can't breathe. Might want to step off his neck. There's people watching. We've got a huge crowd. There's people videotaping. I just don't see how that doesn't cross your mind this day and age, knowing that,
Well, yeah, I mean, that was part of the problem. I mean, if you watch it and you never heard it, you don't know what's going to happen. If it's like the ending is unknown to you, and you watch that video, and up to a point, you're like, okay, they're subduing a guy that was probably really fighting them, and he's a big guy, and there are 3 guys trying to hold him down, trying to get him calmed down. And then it gets to a point where the crowd is saying, hey, he's unresponsive. He's not moving. He hasn't moved in 2 minutes, and they don't do anything. They just sit there like they can't hear him.
Yeah, like you said, maybe that pride got in there. And so let me back up a little bit. I said something about, hey, you know what, this doesn't look good. There's video cameras. And so, and on top of everything else, and the main thing is that, hey, that's still a person, that's, down there. So, videotaping is, or, digital recording, whatever it is, recording, is something that you need to be concerned about. But at the same time, hey, this is still a person, and you're not trying to, your job is to catch the bad guy and take him to jail, and that's it.
Yeah, your job isn't to be the punisher. You're not.
Right.
You're not there to
Absolutely.
punish, or even. And this is something you said before, a minute ago, that was really, I thought, was incredibly interesting, and that is that even if they get some good shots in on you, that doesn't mean you get to use your authority or power or whatever and get them back. You just have to take them.
Yeah, Oh, I can think of one. I don't know if you were there at Oak Knoll before we had our church. Is I got let's see, was I already here?
I don't think I was, because I don't remember. I don't know what you're talking about.
I got my face busted.
Oh,
The guy had some mental issues.
Yeah. I do remember that now.
And
I remember.
so, I mean, it was. I mean, there was blood everywhere. I thought it was his blood, because we were standing toe to toe. There was no. I mean, we were. It looked like, we were.
You were going at it.
2 seals in a bowl of snot. It was bad. We were slipping and sliding all over the place, and I'm thinking, "Wow, this is gross." I've got this guy's blood all over me. But yeah, it was my blood, and so I remember cuffing him, and this is probably not going to speak well of one particular officer, which I can say that he's no longer a police officer. I got him to the car, and the first thing he told me, "Man, why'd you stick him in the car?" Well, because he needed to be in the car. I know what he was thinking. They wanted to do a number. It was only one guy. The guy, it was my blood. I mean, he got me, but I did what I had to do. I cuffed him. The thing was that he beat his mother up, and and who doesn't want to pound on a guy that just beat his mother up? Elderly lady. But that's not what I was there for. The guy had mental issues. I still got him cuffed, and I got him in the car. And when the troops showed up, I made the mistake. Hey, my son's back there. He beat him. Oh, okay. Well, let me get back there. I want to, before he gets away. That's my thing. I don't want the guy to get away. I get back there, and it's on. And I slipped, and he kicked me in the face, and I mean, it was just like a blur. And so I did what I had to do. I distinctly remember that officer coming, and he said, "Man, you should have stayed back there. You should have." No, no, you think, yeah, but no, and that's the honest truth. I stuck him in the car, and I sat there. I sat outside the car, going, "Wow, it really doesn't hurt that much." My head, I was numb.
Did it hurt later?
Oh yeah. This part, I don't know. Maybe it was connected.
No,
it looked like a wall or something.
I remember. It was. I don't remember distinctly, but I remember you having bandages and beat up pretty bad.
Wasn't that bad. It was, and the ugliness never went away, huh?
I thought he fixed you.
Yeah, that's how you think. You can't get a honker like this just naturally. Yeah, no. So I mean, that's not what you want to do. And again, when you have those officers that say, "Man, this guy, he didn't. You could have done more." Yeah, I could have. Why not? But why? I knew that the guy had some mental issues, and all I wanted to do was hurry up and package him up and stick him in the car, and that was it. And that whole time we're going at it, it never crossed my mind, just pull this guy's. I was getting tired. This guy, he could get my gun. He's not, mentally stable, but it never crossed my mind that. You
say that you kind of went into that situation without thinking. What should you have done in that situation?
Well, I wanted to hurry up and catch the guy. So that was my first thing. Oh, I'm going to get back there. And when the guy told me, hey, it's my son, he beat up my mom, I thought, what kind of guy possibly, how tough could a guy be that wants to beat up his mother? I just didn't realize, and if you heard this thing that people with mental issues have like super strength. He was definitely a strong guy. And I know they dealt with him several times afterwards. I know they have, because I remember when it finally was going to go to court, the guy had been actually incarcerated it had been like 2 years, I think. And I was like, wow, that guy's still in jail over this? I never, and I'm thinking, it wasn't jail. It was a special place from an institution. Yeah. And they finally come and say, hey, this is going to go to trial. I said, is he going to get help? Is he getting help? He goes, right now he is like on this perfect little course that he's going on. I said, you know what? I'm okay. I'm not any more. I'm not any more uglier than I was before. So, and I let it go. I talked to the DA for a little bit, and they said, yeah, that it's up to you.
So they didn't press charges.
Not for that particular incident. He was having an episode. And not to say that he shouldn't be responsible for what he did, but man, he hadn't seen daylight since that actually happened. So he has not been, stable enough for them to release, but that he was really doing well under their care. And they said it would probably be another couple of years before he got to get out. So I thought he was okay with that. I just didn't think that piling this on top of him was going to help. Because the other thing I thought of was, who's going to pay for all this is probably the parents. Who's going to pay for counsel or pay for, yep. And I ended up dropping it at my end anyways.
How common is that in your experience with the police that cases like that, the police will, even if it's them that got kind of, what do you call it, touched up, or what do they call it? You got a little
dinged up.
A little dinged up, and that they'll not, try to get the guys.
I think, more times than we think, because a lot of times, how many times I've seen guys scuffle, and they actually get, I'm not going to book them for that. I'm just going to get them for resisting rather than the assault. So they get a little bit of resisting. That's not an all-out attack. It's just trying to get away. Whether they, push you or kick you off or whatever, but not actually get them for, assault on a PO. And I've seen that several times where officers just, I'm good. I'll tuck my shirt back in and dust myself off and, go into the next call. And I think that officers are tough that way. They're not going to be, that nitpicky.
Yeah, I bring that up because I think I know there's a certain widespread view, and I don't know how many. It may not be a majority of people, but there is a significant number of people who think that policemen are out there trying to make or the arrest and trying to get all the charges they can possibly drop on you. And if you touch them, they're going to send you away for life as they can. And it doesn't. That hasn't been my experience. Certainly not with you.
No, I don't think that's. I can't speak for everybody, but the immediate people that I was around there in South Patrol, it's just not there. I mean, you have your few, but I think over time, maybe initially you're a young cop, you're a young officer, and you're going out and you want to, save the planet, and somebody, tears the patch on your shirt, and you want to, hey, this guy assaulted me, so on and so forth. It just takes a different, personality, I think, to go out there and say, hey, you know what, I signed up for this. I'm a deep sea diver, and I jumped and I got wet. It goes with the territory. But granted, there's some some situations that you just the guy needs to be charged with with assault on a PO if it's an all-out attack. But sometimes these guys are just trying to get away. I've even had them thank me. It's the weirdest thing, and I know police officers out there.
I wanted to get to there with you because you've had some. You and I have talked about some crazy stories on that.
Yeah, they tell you thank you. I dust them off. I remember sitting down with this guy, and I looked like powder in his hair, and it was the gravel driveway, and let me get this junk out. You wear the little thing, you dust them off, and say, oh, you all right? You good? We're gonna get in there. We're gonna we got to take care of this. It's got to get done. Hey, he goes, hey, the big word they call it is, hey, boss man. I just want to tell you thanks. I'm sorry. That's a weird thing for them to Of course, between where you encounter the first encounter to the they listen to they hear. Of course, this is after I turned my life back over to Christ and I quit living my own life. But they'd hear this, and I'd have them tell me, "Oh man, you're a church guy, you're a Christian," or they're flat out. But sometimes they just didn't want to hear it. And once they cut me off, I cut them off. But a lot of times, I'd preach to them all the way to the jail, and I tell them, "Hey, you know what? I'm glad we met." And some guys, they didn't all fight with me. It's not the way it is. It's not like the movies. But you make the rest of. Just walk up, you got me, click, and you're on the way to jail. They're hating on you until you get there, and they say, hey, you know what? Thank you. And it's the weirdest thing. I've had people when I write them tickets, thank you. That's just a weird thing for me. I'm like, man, yeah. Now, granted, I was Trini used to work at the substation after he retired from SAPD.
Trini's my father-in-law for anyone who doesn't know. And
I'd come in and I'd show them all the tickets, like fan it open like money. And we'd start laughing. I'd go, guess who won we would say the toaster oven. And I'd say, this was like 35 in the school zone. But that's all I would write. That was my pet peeve. It just drove me nuts to people, the speed in a school zone. I just couldn't write highway tickets on the highway. I just couldn't make myself do it because I would speed. I know a couple of sergeants that know if they ever saw this, say, yeah, that fool was always late. And I know he was, flying on the highway to get there. I was
impressed you were here on time for the podcast.
Yeah. You didn't see me. I was outside for an hour. Nervous as can be. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, that's
Well, we had. I don't want to lie. I don't want to exaggerate. But if my memory serves me right, and I'm trying to be accurate on this, we had 2 or 3 people that came to church when we had the Southside Church, that came to church that were people that you either ticketed or arrested, and they'd gotten out of jail, and you had witnessed to them after you had arrested them or ticketed them. And
it was 2. Actually, it wasn't tickets; it was arrests. It was 2 arrests, and so I would handle the tracks, and on our track it had the address, and I wouldn't tell them anything else. I said, hey, that's the church I go to. There's some good information on here. Think about it. And one I think was already a Christian. But Lionel, Oops, I said his name. So, good friend of mine. You remember how
Yes, I
I
do.
met him? Now this was different.
I never knew how you met him, actually.
So he's a great guy, and he could have whooped my butt like nothing. He's out there. It was an apartment complex I used to work at doing security. I lived there, but and they had a basketball court, which is crazy, right in the middle. And you bounce that ball, and it would just echo off the walls. And at 9:00 was cutoff time, so I went up and I told him, "Hey, sir," and I'm thinking, "Oh man, this guy's he could beat me up." Really nice. I said, "Hey, you have to cut it. You know, you can't be out here playing basketball." And he was upset. But I said, "Hey, man, I just made friends with him. I talked with him, walked with him. I said, hey, what, I was trying to figure out who he was. I said, well, you live here? Okay, no problem. Send him on his way. Hey, first thing in the morning, I think they open up at 8 or whatever. You can come out here and play again. I think I even made a joke about, I come over here and, I'll show you how to play because I couldn't." Yeah, that wasn't going to happen because I'm not very much a basketball player. But at that time, I was not going to church. I wasn't serving the Lord, and I wasn't. I just wasn't a Christian, in the sense that
you weren't living a Christian.
Right, exactly. But we stayed friends, and we actually did play basketball. And yeah, it was bad.
I wish I had video footage of that. We would show it right now.
Yeah, I'd leave. So, remember he started coming. He started visiting with us. I hadn't talked to him. I think I told him. I've talked to him since I've retired, and he's now attending another church, and he's pretty involved. And from what he tells me, and I have no reason not to believe him. But he was one of the guys, but it wasn't an arrest. The other guy, remember, he ended up passing away. He was the guy. I took him to jail, but then oh my goodness, I can't remember. Anyway, so he was hit by a DWI driver, and then they had a baby. Remember, they came in. Remember, we had the church way out. The one on, okay, he went there, and then I don't know if he ever actually attended Southside. He may have.
Well, the ones I'm talking about, they came to the ones there at that Mission Road, and there was at least 3, and one of them was from a ticket, because they told me. I asked them. Pretty much anyone that visited was because you had invited them. I mean, no one else could get. I couldn't get. I can't get people to go to church if I give them money, and you ticket them and take them to jail, and they come to church.
Well, Trini he tells me, please go to Michael's church because nobody else likes him. So I'm only doing this for Trini.
This is your community service. You're paying for your sins or what?
Yeah. So okay, you remember one was a lady that I invited, and then she brought her husband was the one I took to jail. There was a family violence thing, and that still didn't work out for them. Last I remember. But she really was pretty solid for a while. Come and go. Yeah. But she was still consistent in her consistency. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, my point with all that is that, however you're interacting with these people in your job as capacity as a police officer, you're leaving an impression on many of them that was, people could very easily have hated you. I mean, and yet you were leaving an impression. So, how would you interact with them in order to achieve those kind of results?
Well, depending on the situation. A lot of times I was just at a store, and the uniform, I used that uniform for my selfishness for many years. And then I went through my divorce and went through depression, and I thought, man, I'm such a loser. I can't get it right. I don't. What am I doing? 3 kids now, and so when I called Trini, because I knew he was a Christian, and I said, hey Trini, this is what's going on, and he goes, I knew it. He knew all along what I was up to, even though I told him I was a Christian. He knew, and so we started doing Bible studies. So. To not get too far off what you asked me, so the Christian part of me, like I said, or the selfish part of me did what I wanted to do, and then as I started serving the Lord, I started living that life, going to Bible studies, understanding that, hey, you know what, God gave me this position here. There's no way. I look back and I think, man, you just skimmed getting out of high school. How did I do this? And so, it's an accomplishment for somebody, because a lot of my friends. Oh, I heard a beep.
I told you you'd hear that.
Yeah. So, well, I didn't say a bad word. What that beep wasn't covering.
You were like, ooh.
So the Christian life that I should have been living, all of a sudden, I needed to start living. And so how I interacted with people is I would just talk to them, and I used the uniform, and no longer for my selfish need, but to glorify God. And so sometimes it was just, hey, I'd always have tracts in my pocket, and I would get so angry if I don't have a tract. So now I gotta ad lib, I gotta swing, try and preach without, and it's hard sometimes because people don't want to hear it, especially if they come up and ask me a question. Yeah, I got a question. Okay. So and then I'd ask them, and this is when I first started doing Bible studies with Trini, it was probably a little rough, and I said, well, I got a question for you. And you know where you're going to go when you die. That was it worked sometimes. Sometimes it didn't. But nevertheless, I tried to have that, and it was numbers. I hate to say it, but I did. It was, man, I'd probably go, I don't know how many tracts I would just give out. You don't have a Bible, of course, before the phones were really popular. You don't have a Bible? I'll buy you one. I was quick to do that. I'll buy you a Bible, no problem. And so I did that quite often. I put the name on it and made it, special. Read that, don't just, put it on top of your shelf there for people to see it. You should use it. So the interaction was just, and so, okay, so let's talk about that for a minute. So being able to talk to people, 10 years ago, but prior to even my little short messages that I used to do at the Southside Church, I think it was all training for this, because I was really not I talked the ears off a wooden Indian. My buddy tells me that all the time. But to talk to a crowd, or to talk to, right now I can't get out of my head that there's maybe,
there's nobody
there's
listening.
3 people listening.
No, trust me, there's nobody listening.
So, but still, it's always that thought of that group. Yeah, I just can't do it. But to talk to people, there was some training and, going through the academy, learning how the courtroom demeanor. Oh, my goodness. I mean, I'd get up and the seat was soaked. And that one, I didn't pee. No, I was just sweating.
It was so, yeah. Oh, okay, Albert. Okay, if you say so.
No, it's just one of those things. I get really nervous. But it became very easy. For some reason, I was just, proud. That's a weird word to use. So I was proud of being a Christian. Not in the sense of like pride, like, oh, look at me. I wanted to tell people, hey. And so it just got really easy. And then and I got a little, you want to call it routine. I knew a little spiel that I'd give them, and if I didn't have any tracks, and I would challenge myself. I'd say, okay, so the one story I can tell you is there was a group of bikers. They, the patches were recognizably a certain color, and I can't say, because there's a lot of groups that motorcycle clubs that have these colors, but I remember it's like 4 or 5 guys talking. It was at Exxon or Valero, I can't remember anyhow. So I walked up and I just kind of creeped up, and I was sitting there, and they all kind of opened up a little bit, and it's like they're looking at me.
Are you in uniform?
I'm in full uniform.
Okay.
They're like, who was this guy over here? What's he wanting? Say, hey, yes sir. What's up, boss man? How you doing? Say, hey, I just want to, and I started handing the tracks to each one. And I said, okay, hey, I don't want to bother you. I know y'all, you're having your conversation. I just, just wanted to give this to you, something important to read, some good information there. And that's why I would leave it like that. I didn't want to push anything on them. Went to the store. I remember coming back, and I was parked in the shade, and I was I was in my private car, though. I was either going home or going to, and so I was putting gas in my car. And I remember standing there, and then all of a sudden I hear, sir. And I turn around, and it's one of I look over my shoulder, and it's one of the guys. He had turned around, and he just broke out crying. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to hold together. I'm not going to cry too. I'm tough. And he said, hey, thank you very much. I needed this. And he goes, well, I got to go. I'm going to read it. I promise you. And I was like so excited. I said, hey, come here. And I put my phone. They never called me. I've done that 100 times, maybe more. Call me. You have any questions? If I don't know the answer, I'll find somebody. I never got the calls. I think maybe once or twice I'd get them. But it was
But you did get a number because you would text all those people too if they gave you their number.
Yeah. Oh,
I remember
absolutely.
you had a lot of numbers on the phone from people, and you
Yes.
would just send out every Saturday or whatever,
Right.
or send out a mass text to all the people on the phone.
Yeah.
Like, what would you text? If you're out of jail yet, come to church, or what?
Yeah, I won't give you money for commissary, but I'll give you I'll give you some good info.
I'll let you beat up our pastor.
Yeah.
What would you text?
Yeah, yeah we're not gonna be throwing pies. We're gonna be throwing rocks. Yeah. No. I mean, I would just invite them and say, hey, you know what? Send Bible verses. The main thing was just inviting. Say, hey, you know what? We're having service on tomorrow, 8:00 or whatever, or 9:00. I think we used to have it 9:00. Remember when we hit real early? And it was just invitation. So if you need anything, give me a call. Give me a holler. And never, most of them were thank you. And sometimes those numbers, I've had them so long that, who's this? And I'm like, oh, I used to invite you to church. Oh, wrong number. Oh, well, you're still welcome to come to church if you want to. Okay, but thank you. I'll take you off my call list. My call log, whatever it is. But yeah, I just those are the things I would just. I know you used to think that I said, you had that little joke about tickets fixed here, but no, I used to say that all the time.
Well, I had to come up with some reason why you could give someone a ticket and they would come to church, and I would say I'd take them out to eat if they'd come to church, and I never could get anyone to come to church.
Yeah, it was just I don't know. It's just one of those things that. The gift of the gab. This is my buddy from third grade. He goes, man, you have the gift of the gab. He goes, man, you have a way of just talking to people, right? A salesman. I hate to, again, you use that for your own personal selfishness, and again, you could use it for, for God's glory. And I think it really.
And
has.
you would also use that same demeanor you have, the same way you have of dealing with people when you talk. Doing police work, putting aside the Christian faith and aside evangelism, but just in your police work, I saw a couple times I had a chance to see you interact with people in that capacity, and you had the same type of demeanor. It was always a very humble, very amenable, very friendly approach to people.
Yeah, so I have lost it. There has been times where I'm not in the police. My kids, like I said, just and I do stupid things, and I'm quick to break my stuff. I don't, oh gosh darn it, and but for the most part, I try and think it through. You said something the other day that's exactly like me, and I told Jackie, I said, oh man, me and Michael actually have something in common. Marco is the prime target. Marco's my youngest son. He sees this more than Justin and Lauren, my older two, got to see, is that get after him. Where you want to go eat? And he would look at me like, what in the world?
So what is it we have in common? That we get over anger fast,
yes.
or that our solution is to go eat something?
Let's go eat.
Okay,
both. But I can turn that switch off. I don't know what it is. I think Jackie has experienced. Jackie's my wife, has experienced that too. Is that she will, hang on to something. And if I make her mad, oh man, it's gonna be a long week.
Is that why you were asking if there's an extra bed in this house right now?
Yeah, I was wondering if that trailer was empty out front there. No, it's just Jackie is she doesn't lose it, but she gets mad, and it's like I'm mad, and I'm mad because I'm not gonna talk to you. Yeah, you just leave me alone, and when I'm ready, I'll talk.
She's probably listening, so you're gonna experience some of that when you get home if you keep it up.
No, I told her
it wasn't me, Jackie. I just wanted to conversate with him.
Oh no, she thinks I'm at HEB. I shouldn't know anything about this. I took YouTube off her phone.
That's good.
No, and me, I can get angry, and there's sometimes I'll hang on to stuff a little bit, but. For the most part, it's just, like a breath of wind or, a gust of wind. Just let it go. Move on to the next thing. And I'm not saying that I forgot about it, because it'll come back up and it'll go away. But I don't stream angry about it. I just can't. And the same thing with, doing the police work. I just can't make myself stay mad. Maybe it's, I goof off too much. I like to be the guy that cracks up, tries to make jokes, and you can't do that. If you have that personality and always trying to, hang on to stuff. And same thing with the police work. I just, Jackie, when she drives, she'll stay in the fast lane. I let them pass. Let everybody go by. Let them go. She gets mad because I drive real slow. And I'm not a speeder. I can't make myself do it. And I'm like, I'll get out of people's way. I can be in the slow lane and I'll get out of their way. There is a fast lane, and I guess they go on it. And she's like, no, I'm going to drive right here. If they got a fast lane, they could go around. And I'm like, oh, and it's not.
But isn't that the type of character you really need in cops? I mean, not everyone has to be the same or the same extent.
Yeah.
But isn't that the type of character you need in policemen, that they're not out to prove a point, they're not out to get to be vindicated, and that they can let things go like that?
Yeah, I think to a certain extent, because there are some people that personally come after you. Again, my buddy my classmate, they would write stuff, they would graffiti on the wall, his badge number, and say they would just, his badge and then a few choice words. And so those were personal attacks. But for the most part, it's not personal. These guys, all they want to do is get away. And whenever you have the bad guy, if you want to, a person breaking the law, it's they're doing one thing, and you're doing the other, and you're going to cross paths, and you catch them or you don't, and if you do get them, do what you got to do, and then take them to jail. That's where they go. They don't, you don't want to take them to the hospital. You don't want to, have to do all the extra paperwork. You don't want to do that. You certainly just don't want to hurt somebody just for fun. And I know there's probably, nationwide, across the world, I'm sure there's policemen that, are going to take advantage of it. I have the uniform and I can get away with it. Or at least you think you can because of, the position you hold. But these days, there's cameras everywhere.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I would say that personality, to answer your question, I'm not saying that I have the best personality, because I'm sure that there's some guys out there that, they've got me. In other words, they've played the nice guy, and I was always a sucker for, you got me, my speeding tickets. Yeah, and I'm thinking to myself, there's a sign down the road that says, admit to this guy what you did, and he's gonna write you a warning. And more times than none, they pretty much got they got the skate. So there you go.
I've heard that from other people before, that if you're just honest with the cops and not try to make excuses, especially say a ticket, like a speeding ticket or whatever, and you just say, yeah, you're absolutely right, I was doing it, I don't have an excuse, you got me, good job, you're trickier than I am, you're more clever than I am. I like where you're hiding your cop car, whatever. But be honest, and a lot of times they'll say they've told me it's almost like a breath of fresh air that somebody's not, and just trying to excuse it all.
Right. Yeah. It just amazed me how many people were on the way to go buy their child a car seat. like wow. It's amazing.
I wish I was selling car seats down that road.
Yeah. So one of my favorite stories, and it happened to my buddy, and it's happened to me, is where the parent is telling the officer, I had my seatbelt on, and the kid's, nuh-uh. No, you didn't. So yeah, that's one of them. The other one kid, I'll never forget it. It was in a car that was really low. It wasn't a low rider. It was like a little small Eclipse or something like that. So I'm standing. I'm actually tall at this point. I'm looking down, and the kid's begging me, "Please, sir, can you give me a warning? Can you just give me a warning?" And that annoys me. And then he was speeding through the school zone. So I'm like, so I'm writing the ticket. I said, okay, let me see your driver. I said, "Please, sir, can you give me a warning?" I had it. I said, "This is me losing it." I said, "Okay, you want a warning?" "Yeah, I'm warning you. If you speed through my school zone again, I'm gonna write you another ticket." And I handed him the ticket, and all I see, I just can't imagine. My tactics went out the door. I just saw this little kid, and he's maybe a high school kid or college kid. And I guess I saw the person, but I just didn't pay attention who it was, or maybe that it was an adult, because I could see the hands. But I see these eyes, and all of a sudden I see it's an older lady, and she just glared at me. And I didn't get to my car. get to go park my car to set my radar back up because I was getting a call from the sergeant, got complained on, for me losing it. And I hear guys talk about all the stuff that they would do. I said, man, I can't even tell somebody to be quiet, and I get complained on. It just never happened for me. I just hear some of the craziest stories, and I'm like, wow, I'd be catching days for that.
Yeah, I mean, you felt you never got away with anything like that.
Yeah, I just never. I don't know why. So that's why maybe the fear of getting in trouble. My mom had to play both parents, and she was pretty tough, and so I just learned to be nice to mom because she didn't pull any punches, and she was she was a whipper. I caught that too. That you like to spank, and my older two had their own paddles, brown, red and black. One was wrapped in red duct tape, the other one was wrapped in black duct tape. Every now and then I'll bring up the stories to my older two, and they laugh. They said, "Yeah, you got them backwards. I had the red one, he had the black one, or whatever." But yeah, I used to. Yeah, these days, man, it would just take once to turn me in, I guess, and it was just paddling. I didn't hit him over the head with it or anything. Though, my daughter, you would think, I would say my son. No, my daughter probably needed.
Right.
But I think it was my mom who, if nothing else, instilled the. It's just my alarm. The
lunchtime.
Yeah, no.
Lunchtime.
What time is it? Instill those, lying. And she catch you in a lie. Oh my goodness, yeah, and then the long. I rather would have just had the whippings, but we got both. We got the long speech and the whippings, and for some reason it just paid just to say, "Mom, you got," yeah. Because if not, it was worse. And be nice. My mom was one of those kind that you're gonna get. You want to be treated a certain way, you should try it first. Not everybody's gonna treat you the way you treat them, but give it a shot. And for some reason, I just like that. I know maybe it's a form of weakness. I don't know, but I just don't like to have enemies, if you will. I just don't see it necessary. You're gonna have them anyways, but I just don't want any. I'd rather be able to, because I never had a problem. Okay, so here's something else. I'm getting a policeman telling me, I can't believe you live where you work. And that's not what the term they use. It's about the toilet or something.
Yeah.
I said,
right.
Why? I know why. Because you treat people bad, and you're afraid they're going to come back and get you. And I've been in, I don't say HEB, maybe Walmart or something. Hey, boss man, how you doing, sir? And I'm looking at them, who is this guy?
And you're not in uniform.
No, they recognize
you.
Yeah, it's different. You don't recognize them. There's just too many. But they recognize you. They remember you're the guy. And just like, wow, who are you? What are you doing, sir? But when they call you boss man, or they...
Is that a thing of respect, or is that... No, it's not respect.
Yeah, there's... Boss man is kind of just a term. I've heard different things, what it stands for, but it's backwards. I guess off the air, I might... But sorry, something or other, but...
Right, okay.
Yeah, so...
I asked because... In my business, I work in construction, and you know that, but I end up hiring people that are convicts, that have been in jail, and they call me boss man. So I'm wanting to figure out if they're being nice or mean.
Well, I mean, the term can be used loosely. I mean, I call, hey, boss, what's up, boss? And I'm, I don't mean any disrespect, but I know when they're referring to officers that it's, at least what I was told when I used to work at the detention center, in my first part of my career, is that that's what we were told. That's what that means. You're not. You don't have their respect.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah. don't get all puffed up, huh?
Wow, boss man. Yeah, no, it didn't have anything to do with that. As far as, like I said, when we were taught, and they said, yeah, just know it is what it is. And that's one of the things, is you learn that you can't be thin-skinned in this business. You just can't. People are going to call you names. They're going to, give you every gesture they can. And, it is what it is. You just going to have to let it bounce off, And
we have a viewer here that says, I'm listening. Can you guess who that is?
Yeah, it's either my daughter or Jackie.
It's Jackie.
We have one.
She's listening.
We have a listener.
So you might want to, tighten it up a little bit there, Albert. Oh, she says, suck it in.
Whoa. I can't find love anywhere.
So would you recommend to young men, well, let's start with young men. I don't care about being politically correct. So would you recommend to young men to go into the police force?
I would say it's a good career, but individually, I'd look at that person. Because it does take a certain type of personality. I don't think a person's that one of you can't be a coward. Just got to come out and say it. If you're afraid, if you're afraid of the dark, you're afraid of your own shadow. You can't wait, fight your way out of a wet paper bag. I mean, I know that most of our job is verbal judo. You learn to talk. You learn to, calm things down. But there's going to be those days. And if you are not one that's willing to step up to the plate and do what you got to do to, to go home. Because we had a lot of smart guys. A lot of guys that, man, they'll smoke you in the books. But when you get out there, it's not going to happen for you. We had I wouldn't even say a young guy. He was a retired Air Force. Super smart. He'd get out there and just vapor lock, whatever you want to call it. You're just like...
freeze, yeah.
And for the most basic things. So to recommend law enforcement, it's got to be individual. You got to look at that person and, even try, Marco, you know how he is. He's fly on the wall. He will not talk unless you're talking to him or unless you ask him a question. And even then you can hardly get an answer out of him. I love my son, but I don't know if his personality is the kind, or he needs to just break out of that shell that's going to go out and be assertive. You have to be assertive. You have to be confident that what you're saying, you got to know what you're doing, first of all, but and to go out and push that because you're going to dig into people's lives that don't want you there. And so you get in there, like I said, we're controlling that matter. Shut up, be quiet, put your hands where I can see them, whatever. And if you can't do those things, I don't know if the career is for everybody. A friend of mine, his daughter is interested in getting into the sheriff's department. So I explained to her, I said, look, this is, it's a good career, but you got to know what you're getting into because you're going to be in a unit, that's the pods that work in the jail, with numbers of, they're not behind bars. It's like a dormitory and they're out. It's a good experience. I say,
I've been in those because I've installed the toilet partitions and stuff in those pods. Yeah, I've done it in a number of different places.
So you see,
yeah, I do.
You're out in the open, and I think it would, to me, a couple of years in working in the detention center is easily 5 years on patrol. Why? Because that teaches you how to handle groups of people, all those personalities that really don't care for you, and you learn. I'm not saying that you learn not to be afraid, because if you're afraid, you're afraid, and that doesn't go away. It's because you wear a uniform, just like the tough guy. You might look like them, but inside, if you're afraid, you're afraid. But it teaches you some things. And I used to wonder why people would scream on the radio, "I got one running." I said, "Why are you yelling? He's running." Now, if he's saying, "I got one chasing me," well, maybe that's a good reason to scream. But, but it does teach, it does give you that experience that's, definitely worth getting into. But again, back to the question, I don't know if it's for everybody.
But just as a career for, let's say, the right people, you think it's a good career path?
Absolutely.
What are some of the benefits of it?
Well, one, if you're young, you grow up quick, and you actually, and I say grow up, you mature. Well, even then, okay. So you hope that it does teach you some.
In some ways, it's kind of like the military in that way, right?
Yes.
You're going into a disciplined life.
Right.
To a
It's very
degree. So
structured.
it's gonna help people that need that.
Yeah, it's very structured. It teaches, basic things in life. And so you go out and it's hard to you're a young guy out of college, and then you go out and see, wow, there's a real world out there that has some problems. But at the same time, you look and you can say, wow, I'm really blessed because I'm not in that situation. Not to say that some officers aren't, in a rut somewhere, but I remember, and initially I used to look down on people like that. Oh, you dummy this, you dumb that. You're an idiot because you haven't, you're my age and you still live at home with mom or whatever. And this is, as a young officer. But later on, you start to think, there's reasons why they are where they're at. And you try to have some compassion. It's hard to have compassion on a guy or a girl who just doesn't get it together. Try and get out on their own and try and make things work. But it does make you grow up quicker. I know it did for me because I matured quicker, even though I was immature in a lot of ways. It made me responsible. I bought a home. I had a big house for I was 23 years old, and I had 10 acres and a 3,300 square foot home. I mean, that's a big wow for, I don't have that now.
Right.
Yeah. But, it does. There's benefits in that manner that, the pay is really well, the law enforcement, for the most part, it's, if you just have a high school education, a diploma, it's pretty good pay for what you're doing. I know there's some departments that require, some college hours. I think DPS is, you have your associates or something like that. But for the most part, you go take the basic peace officer course, and small agencies will pick you up. City of San Antonio, you have to go to their academy. Bexar County will pick, will hire you. Even if you don't have your peace officer license, you can start off in detention and then eventually get your PO through them or privately. Like my son Justin, he went through the ACOG program and they got his license. So now he's a licensed peace officer. So and he works in the jail. He's happy there. I don't like. Yeah, why don't you try and get go to patrol or he's just really complacent, and I don't know if he's ever going to leave. He's been there I think 8 years now. So and he's been there either 7 or 8 years, and he's 27, 28, 29. Somewhere there. No, he's 28.
So besides the obvious drawbacks, which is the danger. Let's say the most obvious one that it's a very it's a potentially dangerous job. Yeah. I don't know how many police officers face real danger in their career to where they're like on the edge of death. How many? How just start there? Where how common is that? I mean, if you watch the movies, they're all emptying their gun every day and booking 35 bad guys and putting 7 in the hospital, 2 in the morgue. How real? Obviously, that's not real. But how real is the danger as far as it? I know it's real, but how common is it?
Well, it's a strange thing because the only thing I've ever shot, I mean, and just to let you know, it was about to get bad, but those pit bulls deserved it. They were going to bite me, and so I think I have 6. I love dogs. In fact, that's what I have. But but to say that you shoot a person, it's not that common. So my buddy, again, my best buddy that I talked to, that we started our career together, it just seemed to follow him. He was constantly having to, to fight. I don't know, because he's a, bigger guy, and maybe they wanted to challenge, they wanted a shot at the title, but he was always fighting, and he's actually had to kill 2 people. And so, and I say had to because he had to. It wasn't guesswork. It was what he had to do. And so, and I think, well, that's weird. How does one do twice in their career? And I can't even. I mean, I've had to draw, but it never got to that point where they had, pointing the gun at me, or where it got to. It didn't even come close. I can't even say. I pulled out many a times, and it was a quick hands up, and they were down, and problem solved. But I never got close to that. Where if I hear people just these nightmares, I'm like, wow, it just didn't. Again, I think the Lord.
Have you ever been in a situation where, in retrospect, you thought, wow, I almost died right there.
Yeah, I mean, in my car, I spun out. I don't know how I stayed on the road. I just kept spinning and spinning and spinning, and then it stopped.
Well, I don't mean when you're driving to get tacos. I mean,
I just couldn't decide. Where do I go?
Was that intersection where there's a Taco Bell on one side and a Dunkin' Donuts on the other?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 1400 block, by the way. That's pretty bad when I know the Southwest Military Drive. That was the code word. I'll meet you down at 1400. Boy, that sounds official, doesn't it? Yeah, that's a...
We have a 1400 in progress. 1400 in progress. I need backup.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I still can't... I could think of some things where that was the plan, it could have gone bad. I was burglars one time. The guy was... it was the funniest thing. It looked like it was a pile of clothes, and all I saw was the eyeball. And the guy was looking at me, and I'm like, and I was with, I think it was my lieutenant, and we were, for my lieutenant to be out on the street, we must have been really busy, and he covered me on a burglary in progress call, and we were in there, and he missed it, and I looked again, I said, sir, and the next thing, we gathered him up and pulled him out, and yeah, just you could just think of different things where it could have gotten. Desert Eagle is a type of pistol. So
that big monster Israeli one.
No, it's a big and I remember it was behind the right there. Oh, my goodness, it was the theater, Mayan Theater. It's that street that runs back there.
Yeah.
We stopped the guy and we got him out. I can't remember what the stop was for, and I remember saying, "Oh my goodness, look at this thing! It's a cannon." And it's like, wow, where does he had that, and he was not a good guy. Had he thought, today's the day, could have gotten bad for myself and my partner that I was with that day. So
besides that component of the job, what are some of the drawbacks of the job? Something you would, if a young man were to say, I really want to be a policeman, and I want you to give me the unvarnished truth on it. You told me what the benefits are. What are some of the drawbacks besides you could die from it?
Well, okay, so you can get consumed with the police life. And, I was always regardless of how bad it seemed, all the extra hours, or, when I say extra hours, it's because I worked a lot of part-time jobs. They never forced you to stay, with SAPD. You didn't stay over. Your tour duty was over. You went home and, the new shift came on. But you could go into this and be upset, be disgruntled. You mess up one time, you get a suspension. You get disgruntled very easy, and it's the same over and over and over. You hear the stories. It's just different people, and it gets old after a while. Or you go back to the same house over and over again, and it does. You can take it home. I try not to, let it. Get into my life. Jackie says, "Oh, you're always trying to be a cop," and I don't necessarily think. I think it's just my personality. I think I would have been that had I not been a police officer. Anyways, you're just pushy or assertive. But as far as the things that could cause problems, or is you allowing the job to control you outside of your tour of duty. So you take it home. The only reason why there's marital problems is because you choose to have those problems. I think that it can be.
Is that a stereotype? The whole thing of cops have terrible marriages, is that how common is that? I mean, the divorce rate in the U.S. is 50%.
Yeah. It
doesn't matter what you do. And I don't know what the statistics are for the police, but is it a stereotype of that?
Oh, certainly. There's an ugly joke that says, "Oh, you're not a good cop unless you've had at least 2 divorces." And I certainly fit that mold, but I don't think being a police officer had anything to do with it. I think it was just poor choices on my part. Period. That's all it is. Granted, the uniform, I'm gonna say encourages a certain type of person that that say, hey, they like the uniform, and
the power trip charge of that.
Yeah, and I think there's it does people are attracted to that uniform, whether it's in a good way or a bad way, and if you let it consume you, it can certainly cause problems for you, in whatever whatever fashion. You go home and you want to play cop at home is that's a bad thing too. You need to learn to leave it at the station, leave it at the substation. Leave your 8 hours in your 8 hours. I've gotten so. That was at one point that I rarely carried my pistol. I just did not want to be a cop after I want to be a police officer. My 8 hours were over, and of course things have changed. And so I believe we need to carry, because you never know. You hear the stories of the officers that weren't prepared, or they were there and something's going down, and you're off duty and you can't do anything.
Well, there was that case at the Mayan Theater a few years ago. I don't know if you remember that. Where
I remember something
where there was an active shooter. He popped up and had a gun. He squeezed off a few shots, and then there was a off-duty woman policeman and put him down.
Was it a police officer or a deputy?
Well, I don't remember what department there was.
But I'm trying to remember the story, but I think I remember hearing something.
But it wasn't just like a person with a gun.
Right.
It was an officer with a gun, and it was like
I remember
he didn't get very many shots off.
Yeah, so now I do carry. It's always there. Yeah.
Is that why when
that's not my lunchbox?
Is that why when I'm preaching I see a little red dot circling me when I start making fat jokes?
Yeah. So okay. So let's go to the next thing. I think it's just so. I want to be a policeman. You need to learn to control that. If you want to be, if you want to get in law enforcement, I would say, learn to control that part of your life, because if you don't, it's going to control you for sure.
So, Timothy Romero just texted in. Hello, Timothy. You can say hello to Timothy on the camera. Look right up there and say hello, Timothy. He says, tell the story of the alligator. What's he talking about?
Oh, okay. So, the whole truth, uncut version. I'm on the way to go to the bathroom, and I'm moving, and I'm headed from east to west, going back to my station, because there's no better bathroom to use. It's the one at the substation. It's safe, it's clean, and that's where I was going. And so and I see these people, and I almost did the old achoo, and was going to keep driving. I said, "Oh, these people are into a wreck. I'm going to be out here for an hour, and it's not going to be good for me," because I had. And I said, you know what? Again, I can't do it. I'm just going to pull over. So I pull over, and I was instantaneous. My stomach was hurting. The guy goes, "There's an alligator in the grass here in the middle of the median." I'm like, "What?" And it's like, "Whoa, I don't have to go to the bathroom anymore." And I look, and sure enough, there. Either I went or it just.
So you didn't have to go to the bathroom anymore, and there was an alligator. Yeah. Interesting.
Well, it's funny because I almost didn't have that. It actually made national news. So that was the top story that year. I think, I don't know which station it was, but it was top, like one of the top stories. So it was about, I kept saying 12 foot, it was actually like 8 foot.
Are you sure it wasn't a lizard, Albert?
Yeah, it might have been.
So what'd you do?
So we got out and I couldn't help. I was excited. I love animals, so this is my thing. I want to jump on this guy, I want to tackle him. Like, wait a minute, this dude's going to bite my arm off. And my sergeant at the time, of course he's passed away now, but he was a great sergeant. And he said, and we're not going to do that. We're not. Come on, let's do it. And then, of course, he was betting me. He goes, "Well, you can do it, but I'm not authorizing it." So no, we joked about it. We were there. I mean, the whole day went by. It was amazing how it was probably 9, 10 o'clock. I can't remember, and it was like the end of the day. But it just time seemed to zoom by. We were having fun, and we blocked off the highway. And, people were having to, and we had a whole bunch of folks stop. And we just didn't know what to do. It came out of that lake. They call it Mitchell Lake, but it's not Mitchell. It's the one right there, right off the 410 commercial, but pretty close to the police academy. And so the strangest thing is, if there's a news clip out there that made me look really good. I don't know which channel that was. The YouTube video, there is a video, alligator in San Antonio. You can look at it and make fun of me. It's my fault that the alligator took the back bumper off because I saw part of the tail sticking out of behind the car. And I said, well, let me step on his tail and he'll come out from under the car. Yeah, alligators don't run from anything. And he turned around and he was biting at what he felt was a threat and something stomping on his tail. And the first thing he could see was the back bumper. And you could see me kind of in the back. I'm kind of ducking, looking down and running away, thinking that this alligator is just going to run out. But he didn't. All he did was pull the back bumper off. And the sergeant looked at me, shrugged his shoulder like,
He pulled the back bumper off the car?
yeah. If you look up the video, you'll see the back. I think he just pulled part of it off, but it was pretty much done. Like I said, his tail was at the back tire on the right side. I saw the little tip. It was probably 6 or 8 inches sticking out. So I stomped on it, thinking that he would shoot out and run out, and scurry out, and no, he didn't do that. He just turned back and bit the first thing that he saw, which was the bumper. And my sergeant just kind of shrugged his shoulders like, what are you doing? I was like, maybe I should have tackled him. Probably would have gotten in less trouble. But no, I didn't get in trouble for that. I mean, it was...
Did animal control come out and take care of it, or what happened?
So we have this really photogenic looking... it's a game warden. I think it's a game warden. You see him in there, and he said, just put him back in the water. Of course, he didn't get out till pretty much after we ran around acting like dummies. He got out, and he's really suave, and looked really sharp in his cowboy hat. And he said, "Yeah, just let him back in the water." And that's what we did. So, anyways, needless to say, they ended up shooting him a couple of days later. But yeah, you figure that he would have got out and knew exactly what to do. And well, I mean, he said they just do that. So
he did. He was going to feed him the fat boy.
Yeah.
He figured he was just hungry.
Yeah.
Give him meat for the winter.
So the one I wished I could find that one because it shows me because I could swing a rope a little bit. I'm not a cowboy. I mean, I have horses and stuff, but so it shows me my hand in the air and then the next scene it shows the alligator, like he's caught and then we're dragging him, and that was one. That was actually a news clip. It didn't happen that way. Oh, it was horrible. My arm was tired from just throwing the rope at him. Yeah, I did it like 10 times, 15 times, and it wasn't even a roping rope. It was just somebody had stopped and said, "Hey, I got this rope," and he bit down on it, and we got him just right, and we dragged him and put him back in the water. But yeah.
But in that one clip, you're the Lone Ranger.
I'll tell you. I said, you know what? It didn't happen that way, but I'll take it. So it taught me quite a bit about believing what's what on the news, because it certainly, like I said, I look good.
So you're the original fake news.
It's what it is. Yeah, I just couldn't believe it. I was laughing. I said, what? It looked like I just one time and wow. The next thing, the alligator's caught.
That was the story they wanted.
Wow, yeah. It did not happen that way. It was horrible. Had that alligator not been sitting there and I just happened to, I was already, yeah. But it was fun. That's the story of the alligator. He went back in the water and somebody else got the wallet and boots out of it because I sure didn't.
There's something else I wanted to ask you, going back a little bit to what we started talking about. So every time, I say every time, it seems like every time that there's any type of incident like what we're looking at in Minneapolis, it's the first cry out there is that the police departments are racist and they're just targeting minorities. They're targeting these people. How real do you think that is?
That's absolutely not true. I mean, I work South Side. Everybody that got a ticket, everybody that I arrested was Hispanic. What's the word? Demographics. Where you work on a certain side of town and you have a certain people there, whatever it is, blacks, Asians, whatever, whatever city. If you work in that and that's the population, it is what it is. I mean, you just look at the statistics. There's crime going on daily, people getting murdered daily, and it just isn't what it is. It's not. It's not what's being preached on the news. It's just I just don't see it. I mean, I'm sure that there's isolated cases, but not widespread. There's just it just can't be, and certainly not here in San Antonio and Bexar County, not at all. Because I mean, our departments, it's a brotherhood, and doesn't matter what color you are, what you believe, what religion. I mean, I took a little bit, a few knots on the head over me being a little abrasive when I was out preaching. But nevertheless, those guys, regardless, are going to come to my rescue if I needed them. And so within us, and then the way we treat people, it's just, I just don't see it. And not in our department, but if it's some type of organized, racism, I just can't imagine that. Not this day and age. If somebody has it ingrained in their mind and that's what they are, it's certainly not something that they're.
You're saying it's not institutional at all.
Yeah, no,
it's
not
systemic.
at all. Right, exactly.
One of the I remember I did a little bit of research in this a while back because there was this. A lot of people say that certain demographics, African Americans, let's say, are being targeted for tickets and speeding, and they get overwhelmingly ticketed. And so New Jersey did a study on this a while back because they commissioned it. The state, I think it was the state commissioned it, but it was in New Jersey. It was either the city, Trenton, or the state itself. I thought it was the state commissioned this study because they were convinced that this was the case. The police department was this way, and African Americans are getting an overwhelming number of tickets than other demographics are. So they do this study, and the study comes out that African Americans in that state, and I'm not saying everywhere, but in that study and in that state, were proportionally were speeders more than the proportion that they got the tickets for. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay.
So that you take how many there are in the state, how many get tickets, and how many are speeding. And they were actually anti-targeting them. In other words, they were giving them less tickets proportionally to the proportion that they were
to the
speeders.
numbers. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. Yeah. That, like I said, I can only speak for my experience, and I just didn't see that at all. I mean, there's just nothing there that I can point to specifically saying, hey, you know what, there is a circle within our, circle that these guys are that way or these gals are that way. I just not, and not in any, like I said, nothing systemically, like you said, not at all. If somebody has it in their mind, it's not something that was openly. And
in your experience, like here in San Antonio, and when you were with the SAPD, if the upper echelons of the department knew that somebody was that way, did they deal with it?
Okay, so again, I'd never experienced that personally or saw somebody, but I guarantee that there is procedure or policy that is totally against that. They're not going to tolerate any type of racial or any type of discrimination in any way, any type of that type of thinking. Not at all. Yeah, I just don't see them putting up, tolerating anybody that's going to have that frame of mind or that type of thinking.
I was changing the subject a little bit. A while back, somebody told me they'd gone I don't know how that they'd gotten one of the questions that are asked when people are going through the exam, the verbal exam. I guess when you're going to be a cop, you got to go before a board and
right, yes.
They do an examination or whatever that
right.
is. And one of the questions they asked, and they told me what it was, and I never did know what the right answer was to it. So maybe you can tell me what the right answer to the question is, in case I ever
what's the question?
So, well, I'll tell you.
I think you tell me the question.
No, you got to tell me the question.
Yeah,
That's
you gotta ask
I'm
me
giving
the
you the
question.
Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah.
I'm giving you the Nebuchadnezzar and Daniel version, where you tell me the question and then the answer, and then I know you're true. No, the question is: you pull over a car. In the that is has their license plate is expired or whatever, their registration's expired. It's at night, and the person driving is a woman, and she says, I don't, my license expired, my registration's expired. I'm working. I'm trying to get stuff bills paid. My husband's sick and whatever. What do you do?
Okay, so traffic, and I thought about this earlier when we were talking about traffic because it is officer discretion. Do you buy the story? Do you if they have an expired license, well, that's one thing because it really is. Now that's pushing it because you're not even supposed to be on the road. Myself, whether it's a woman, whether it's a man, Joe Lunchbox, I think we used to call him, joke around, but the hardworking man that's just trying to really make ends meet. Warning was a quick answer to that. So if you're answering the question on the board, they're going to make it very difficult for you because it's not going to be just a man. It's going to be this is your mother. This is the mayor of San Antonio. This is and you pull them over for, DWI. What do you do? That's the question that's going to bite you. You answer and you don't change your answer. So that's what I think they're looking more for the person who's going to be wishy-washy. They're going to be out to, get somebody who's going to change their answer just because that's what you want to hear. Or you say, you know what, I stick to it. And I remember answering questions saying, well, I don't know policy. I kept saying that. I don't know the procedure or whatever terms that I used at that time. I don't know the rules, I may have said, because I don't know, when you're a young kid, you just don't use certain terms. But I remember telling the board, I said, well, they asked me, why do you want to be a police officer? Or why do you want to go from Bexar County to San Antonio PD? And at that time, I said, well, it's because I want to make more money. And they laughed at me. So then the other guy says, you're supposed to be wearing a suit. I didn't have money for a suit. I didn't. So in my interview with the city, in fact, my brother had loaned me a suit and it didn't fit because he's taller than I am. And man,
he's taller. That's why?
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. Yeah. It wouldn't button.
You mean taller in the horizontal direction? Okay, I got you.
So I ended up wearing whatever. And it's the next question. It's kind of funny because he asked me, you're supposed to wear a suit, right? I go, yes, sir. He goes, well, why didn't you wear one? Well, can I go back to the previous question? Question number one, which was, why do I want to be a police officer? Because I want to make more money. And if I didn't, the reason why I want to make money is so I can buy suits. And it was, they chuckled and I'm thinking, oh boy, I done blew this one. But, so anyhow, they ask you questions. And if you change your answer, that's going to get you. But to say that there's a right answer, no, write the ticket. If they're wrong, they're wrong. Again, it's so at that time, I'm sure it still is, because you can't write everybody a ticket. They give you warning tickets for a reason, and that's at your discretion. There's some things that you may do, and some things you shall do, and so traffic violations are all, I believe, for the most part, are those ones that you can make that decision right there on the spot. But like I said, when you're across the board, they're not going to be that easy. That's an easy one. It's when they start throwing in, well, it's your mom. They want to see, they want to check your integrity, and they want to check, whether you're going to be one of those kind of guys that changes your answer just because, well, maybe this, maybe that. So to say that there's a one right answer is probably
right.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to say. Yeah, there's one that's more correct than the other. I don't even know if that's possible.
So all things considered, are you glad you went into that?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
How many times I pinch myself and go, man, I can't believe I have a retirement for the rest of my life, and the benefits. It's I don't want to say it's free money because I earned it. I guess I put into the pension, but every month it's something that I get that I don't have to work for anymore. Of course, I've been blessed.
Yeah, it's an investment. You
Yeah.
invested 25 years, and now you get to reap the benefits from that
Right.
investing.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, I've been blessed with another career with the sheriff's office. I'm thankful to Sheriff Salazar for giving me that opportunity to run his to assist with the mounted unit, and I also do. Well, what I did for the city was called CRT. The unit that I'm in now is called Voices, and we assist victims of family violence as well. The difference is every substation with SAPD has a team, has several teams, 2 or 3. It's 3. I think every substation has 3 teams. Myself and my 2 victim advocates. So there's 3 of us for the whole county.
Wow.
Yeah, for Bexar County. So we're a little understaffed. It is what it is, but. I have a good team, and certainly my supervisors, and I'll throw that out there in case they're watching, are definitely, they're definitely on board with everything that we're doing. And every now and then I get an attaboy, and I like that. I'll take it.
So you look at what's going on now because of the protests. If you want to, I have a hard time even calling them protests, because when people are looting and breaking into stores and stealing TVs, that to me is not a protest. That's just opportunist. If we were in times of war, we would call that profiteering. That's what that is what to me. This is me. I don't know what you see it, and I'm not trying to get you to say something. I'm saying that to me is profiteering. This is not protesting. If you honestly think that there's a need to protest something, that isn't it. That's not protesting. Yeah,
there's a way to do it, and I think that they're just they're taking away, or I don't want to say dishonoring. They're Mr. Floyd, sadly, is gone now, and this is what people are going to remember. Yeah. That the United States or the cities got trashed, rather than have some type of hey, you know what, this poor man died, and instead of doing something good for that, okay, so it's a bad thing, but to say, hey, you know what, a few years from now, you're going to look back in history, they're going to say, hey, you know what, there was a police officer did a bad thing, and a person died because of it, and there's, you want to have something positive come out of that. And there may be still in the future. But right now, the only thing that people they're looking at is all the negativity that's going on. It's certainly here in San Antonio, it's sad because I rode through downtown. Excuse me. And I saw some of the windows smashed out. And I saw an interview with an elderly man that had a business. And he said something that I was like, whoa, he's right. He goes, this is not San Antonio. This is not, what we do. We don't burn our city down because we won, championships, Spurs games and stuff like that. And so it's not something we're accustomed to. So one thing doesn't have to do with the other. Why someone wants to go steal a TV, it's just they're just opportunists, and they could care less. I honestly believe they could care less about this man's memory. And so
no, I agree completely. Absolutely. That's my point. This isn't about that. This is being an opportunist and a profiteer. Yeah. And even the ones that are out, I won't say all of them, but some of the ones that are out advocating for actual protest, I don't agree with this either. First off, there's no evidence that I can find that this is being swept under the rug. I don't find the evidence that this is being swept under the rug. And what I find is that some of the ones I've heard on this, it seems to me they want these officers lynched. They don't want them tried. Yeah. They don't want the evidence to be examined. They want it now, because I even heard it on TV. I don't even know who he was. Yeah. I won't even say his name if I did. But there was a gentleman on television advocating for, we want justice now. We want justice, and we want a conviction now. Well, that's not justice.
Yeah, you've got to have due process.
Right. Yeah. And I think that too many people, even people I know personally, are upset because it's not happening immediately. But that's how the law works, right? Yeah. I mean, it's not fast. It's a slow process.
Right. Yeah. There's way more to it than just now. They still have to. These guys still have to. They got to go through that, like you said, the process. It's not going to happen overnight, and there are some things that need to be done right away. And investigation. You start to lose things over time. So you want to get all that investigation done, all your evidence. You want to get all that, and now again, hurry up and slow down. Now you've got everything you need. Now you can proceed with, with the rest of the case, taking it to trial. To try and speed it up is not. It could actually do more harm. You speed it up, and they don't care. They want to hurry up. They don't want to hurry up and have these officers try. They just want to go ahead and punish them.
Yeah,
go
they
straight
want to
to the
skip
punishment
right to
phase.
sentencing.
Right,
In their
exactly.
mind, it's already a fact. They saw video.
Yeah.
They think they have all the information. And they think, and I look at the video, and it's a terrible video, and yet I look at it and I say, like I said, I saw I tried to find all of it I could, and of course I'm not an investigative journalist. I'm not a detective. I'm just looking at it, and I look at this video, and you have him walking across the street. You have him on the driver's side of the car. Yeah. He falls to the ground, or he
Yeah, I saw that.
Or he goes to the ground, or they knock him to the ground. I don't know. It's hard to tell from that far away, but he goes to the ground. They pick him up. They open the front door, and then that cuts off. And I'm wondering, why did that shop owner not release the full video?
Yeah.
Because somehow, and we don't know how long it took, he went from that side of the car to the other, and that video, they have it. That's a high quality, high definition security camera video, and that video exists in that guy's possession to show what happened there, and he doesn't put it out. So to me, that's very suspicious. I remember the Rodney King stuff, and when they put out the full video of that whole altercation, it was different than what was told in the media. Yeah. The media cherry-picked a portion, and it made it look different than it was. And I'm not editorializing on who was right or wrong in that. Right. I'm just saying the full video was a very different picture than the one we got originally. And I'm wondering, why would someone this shop owner, he released it himself. Why did he cut it there?
Yeah. There's probably something there. Maybe he didn't want the rest of us to see, or is he totally in control of what he released? Did somebody, tell him, hey, don't let that part go yet? I don't know.
No, but you see my point that it's, it makes me.
So it's a video from that same point of view.
The same point of view, and it's you can see it, and then it cuts, and I cannot find anywhere where it shows what happened after that point. And the way he released it to YouTube, because he released it. Is that the video shows he was not resisting. But in my opinion, if that's the case, then it should have gone all the way until the point where he's getting held down. And they don't. It stops before he even gets to the other side of the car.
Okay, so what that means that let's just say there was no video. You have. And it's just the officer and Mr. Floyd. I don't even know the officer's name, but it didn't. Whatever he did. Remember, I said that earlier. He could have done the worst thing. He's handcuffed. He's down. He needs to stop. I don't think there's a police officer in the department, a deputy in the sheriff's office that's gonna. They would think differently. I just cannot see somebody believing that it's that there's anything in that little whatever time frame it was, whether minutes or seconds or whatever, that led up to that point. He says, I can't breathe, and that would be enough to say, hey, uncle, you got me, and it should have stopped at that point.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. Yeah. And like I said, it's not that I'm trying to exonerate anyone, but at the same time, my point is that you have all this quote unquote protest. I hate calling it that, but this profiteering going on, and then the legitimate part of the protest, which there are legitimate people upset, and they're not looting, and they're not with that. I understand that, but that they need to realize that there's information out there that if it was turned around and the policeman would have died at the hands of Mr. Floyd, they would want a full investigation, all the facts to come out, and they would not be saying, we want a conviction right now and we want him, we want him incarcerated for life. They would say we need due process and we need to have all the information out,
Right.
and it's going to take a while, and we're not going to go loot something or burn down the city because it doesn't happen within what, 5 or 6 or 10 days or 2
Yeah, that's
weeks
not
or
going to
whatever.
happen. Yeah.
No. I mean,
Yeah,
you
you're
don't
absolutely
get a traffic ticket hearing in that amount of time.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. So,
Well, and my concern is that because of all this, the city and the state even is going to be so pressured to fabricate a conviction that are they going to bury this any evidence there might be that might maybe not exonerate, like you say, if there's no exonerate. I can't see how anything, like you said, I can in my mind, as much as I want to be for the police, I can in my mind imagine any scenario that justifies the end of what happened there.
Right. Yeah.
But it could mitigate the charges.
Okay.
But
yeah. So, 100% what you said. There's just no way around that. Why the video's out is not out. That portion is cut out. It's hard to say. You're right. If tables were turned, certainly that evidence everything would need to be presented to give the other person, his day in court, a fair trial. And so, is there anything there that could change it? I don't know. But certainly, it is, it is kind of weird. It's suspicious, and to say the least. That if there's a portion missing, why? We all want that answer. We all want to know why. So hopefully that that those things get released, so there's no more question. Period. And we can go on with, hey, what we obviously saw, and that's Mr. Floyd being held down in a manner which most likely caused his death. I don't know what caused his death. I'm not the medical personnel.
Yeah. I had a conversation with a couple people on this, and what I said back when it first happened is that because of the video I saw and the way it was cut and edited, it seemed to me that we were most likely going to get an autopsy report that said that there was no lesions in the neck, that there was no sign that him putting his knee anywhere close to his neck or on his neck or anything had anything to do directly with his death, which is basically what the autopsy came back to. Just from me looking at the thing, it didn't look to me like he was pressing on his neck in a way that was going to even show any type of signs of any what do you call it, contusion or anything.
Right.
And I suspect that the cops behind holding him down in the abdomen area were possibly more at fault of what happened, of him not being able to breathe, than the guy at his neck. That guy just had the bad optics. I mean, the optics of what he was doing was horrible. Yeah. You're right.
It looks bad.
It looks terrible. Even if his knee wasn't actually even touching him, it looks terrible. Right. Now, I'm not saying it wasn't, right? But now, because because of what's come out, because of what's going on, I'm suspicious that they're going to just blow through all of that. It won't matter.
Yeah.
It won't matter, and those police officers will not get fair treatment. If they, from what they did, this is just me, I would say they shouldn't be on the police force.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so they should be fired. I think they should probably they should definitely stand trial.
Right.
And from what I could see, if I was on the jury, and I only had what we saw, which we won't. I mean, there'll be much more. But if all I had was the evidence seen, I could see me saying, yeah, I could convict him on charges, obviously. But I want to see all the evidence.
Yeah.
And what happens if it comes out and there's evidence that he was going into cardiac arrest before that happened? From fighting with the policeman. So what? I'm not saying this happened, and I'm not trying to make him out. I'm just saying, let's say hypothetically that in that situation, a person is fighting the cops, and they are fighting all around the cop car. You don't see it. They're rolling around on the ground. He goes into cardiac arrest from fighting the police instead of cooperating. Then they're holding him down. Now, they should have identified that because they have so much authority. Policemen have so much power to inflict damage on people. I mean, they have right?
Yeah, they can. Yes.
I mean, they have a gun and they have basically a license to kill in some aspects. They can, in certain cases, they can shoot to kill.
In a justifiable situation, yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
and so
certainly.
that's a tremendous amount of responsibility that they have to be aware of. And so here's this guy and he's unresponsive. And like you said, it doesn't matter if he was about to kill you with his gun. The moment you are in control and he's unresponsive, now you have to protect and serve him.
Yeah. I know, that position, there's this thing, hog tying was done away with because people were dying. Positional asphyxiation is what they called it. I did a treadmill test, to check my heart. I was, I thought maybe something was wrong, so I get on a treadmill and they lay you face down and you can't do anything. And I don't remember what they had me doing, but the doctor or what they do, or the medical person that was taking the test. So I get in the treadmill X amount of minutes and then you lay face down. Try it one day. That is an awful feeling. You feel like you're being, smothered. It's just a horrible, and that you can't move, because usually you want to bend over, you want to get the blood going to certain parts of your body. We naturally do certain things whenever we're out of breath, and I think they made me. It might have been just lay there, with my hands to my side, and that is not something. You ever go go running and just lay straight down and just face down, and it kept. But they needed to get my heart rate at a certain level or to do certain things. But I can understand if there had been some type of fight and then they push him down like that and they hold him, and that could cause, and if you've got already some pre-existing condition, I could see that causing a person to have a heart attack, because it certainly felt, weird when I was, but I had, a healthy heart, and there was some other stuff they were supposed to do, but it never got finished. But But anyhow, I can see where something like that may cause.
And my point is, if I were to see that, I would say, okay, they actually committed a crime because they had a responsibility to him that they didn't fulfill. We could say manslaughter, murder in the third degree, but this isn't the same as a healthy guy. They hold him down until he dies. And I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying I'm concerned that we are not going to see the evidence that I say we that it's not going to be accepted, and that basically they're going to be pressured to produce a conviction that is throwing the book at these officers. And if they did everything we think that people think they did, they should. But if they didn't, are they going to get a fair trial? Well, when they start doing what they're doing now, they're basically saying, we don't want a fair trial. We want a certain outcome, and we're going to keep burning the place down until we get it.
Yeah. And it'd be a sad day in America when, because of any kind of situation, we don't want that. We want this. And just because a group decides that, hey, we're not happy with just this. We want the maximum regardless. And that's not going to be a good thing for anybody, because those same people that want that may be the ones facing a crowd the next time that's saying, hey, you did this and we want.
Yeah, that's right. And like I said, they, in my opinion, what they are wanting is they want them lynched, meaning they want them given the maximum penalty imaginable without due process.
Yeah.
Which is exactly the racial injustice that we're trying to get away from.
Yeah.
And just because we have a certain element of our past in this country where that was done against certain minorities, especially African Americans, where they were not given fair trials, where they were given maximum penalties without due process, that's horrible. But we can't undo it by then now doing it to other people 200 years later. That isn't going to fix the historical injustices. We have to do justice right now, not try to do retribution for people that, if we could fix the injustice of 100 years ago, that'd be great. Let's do it. But you can't. That's done. It's just, as sad as it is, there's nothing we can do. And there's been injustice in human history from the time Cain murdered Abel. Yeah. What are we going to do? Are we going to go find Abel's grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and find some way to lynch them to get back at Cain?
Yeah.
Or Cain's grandchildren, to get back for Abel?
Right.
What are we going to do? We have to give these officers the type of justice that we want them to give us when the tables are reversed.
Right. Absolutely.
And if not, we're going to end up in the society where we're all just looking to destroy each other at any opportunity.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people think that they could never find themselves in that situation, but there's. It's kind of like you point the finger, ha, 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 and the next thing you're the one that's, they're pointing the finger at you for doing something dumb. And I think that if those people that are pushing for this, if they were just to think for a second, what if that was me? What if I'm sure that officer says, I'm going to lean on this guy and kill him. I'm sure that's not what he was thinking. I'd like to know what he was thinking, but
I think he's thinking, I don't know how to get out of this. I got the crowd yelling at me. I've already hardened myself in this position.
Yeah.
I don't know how to swallow my pride and extricate myself from this. I just need the ambulance to hurry up and get here and get this guy out of here so I can keep save face and not swallow my pride. That's what I think. I could be completely wrong. I'm not. It's just when I'm looking at it and knowing how I am, I'm just saying that's what I would be thinking.
Right.
And I suspect, and I hate this about myself, I suspect I would have been the same guy. I would have done that. That's why I can't be a policeman, because I am too adverse to swallowing my pride, humbling myself. Is what I've always admired so much about you. I mean, I hold you in the highest regard because I see the way you act as a policeman, as a person, as a Christian, and you are incredibly humble without you're just, I don't mean humble, you just have a way of talking to people and you're not adverse to say, hey, I was wrong and it's okay and you were right and I learned something. It's an amazing thing. I think that's why you're a great cop. You are a great cop. You're a great guy. And I think that is a huge part of it, is just that ability you have. And it is virtue. This is not a weakness. This is a strength. It is the pride that I suffer from that is the weakness. And when I look at that guy, now he may not be that way. And I don't want to act like I know something about him. I'm looking at him through a video screen. So what do I know? Yeah. But what I'm seeing is myself there. And when I look at myself there, I say, I can see me doing that. And it isn't because I want to kill him, and it isn't because he's a black or brown or yellow or blue or whatever color he is. It has to do with, I'm in this position, I think I'm right, the crowd is yelling at me, and I don't want to back down. I'm not going to back down. I'm going to hold my ground, even if it kills the guy. And it's like, oh no, and then you go home and you say,
what did I do?
I just ruined my life, I ruined his life, I ruined his kid's life, I've ruined everybody's life, I've ruined the city. It's just, it's terrible. To me, the hardest thing, in my opinion, about the job you do, and I could be wrong because I've never done it, but in my mind, the hardest thing about it is being able to turn on a dime from being like fighting these people if you have to then all of a sudden, basically in a way being nice to them and helping them in and not wanting to bang their head on the door of the cop car. Oh, watch out with your head, donk.
Yeah. I've heard stories, and then all I can say is I've heard stories. Yeah, there was an instructor. I won't say what department, but yeah, he used to talk about something called pancake face. If you're out there listening, you ever see this, I'm talking about you. And that was the unseat belted, prisoner, and just slam the brakes. And
that's terrible.
It's horrible. Yeah, I've never done that. Just to let you know. Or waffle face. I think that was the other one because of the grill. It's not a glass. It's not the spit guard. It's the.
It's the old style.
Yeah, the cages.
The old school cage. Yeah.
Yeah. So and I mean, that's just. I look at that and it is as immature as I act. I do the. Jackie just freaks out on some of the dumb things that I do. I'm just constantly pranking, but I don't really think people deserve to be, jacked with like that. It's just silly, and especially as trying to have a testimony. I certainly don't want to slam the brakes on and say, by the way, Jesus loves you. I want to tell you how you can go to heaven.
See, that amazingly, that is, when people who are not believers think it's all nonsense that Christianity changes you.
Oh yeah,
they don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
It changes you for a number of reasons, and there's spiritual change that I think happens from a new birth. That it's an actual real transformation in your mind, which they completely don't accept on scientific grounds or whatever. But even if I were to stipulate that they're right on that there is no physical or mental or psychological transformation, which I don't, but let's just say for sake of argument that's the case, I can make a strong argument that Christianity changes us because of our perspective changes. And whatever humility I'm able to muster in life, it is only because I'm thinking, I'm going to get up and preach and teach, and I'm going to be judged by Christ. Mm-hmm. And I better keep that in mind.
Yeah. So, it's funny you're talking about that because, I always tried to be, even before, my life was about Jesus, I always tried to be the nice guy. But I did it because I wanted you to think I was a nice guy. And that's changed because I don't want you to think anything about me other than, when I, or if somewhere down the road you hear me preaching, I don't want to be the guy where, say, yeah, that guy, he says one thing, but he's really a different kind of guy. I want my testimony to be solid. I want to be able to say, hey, I told you, certain things. I want you to know that, I treated you fairly. I did this. I did my job in a certain way, but not to glorify me. And that's really, sometimes, man, I want to shake my fist at the guy, that cut me off and just get angry and tailgate and or maybe other things. And for what? For what? What is that going to cost? Because I saw, and I discussed this with Trini one time. I saw one of, our church members get out into the street and just, he didn't cuss, but he sure got and pointed his finger. And I'm looking at him. I go, hey, I know that man.
Did he point the wrong finger?
No, it wasn't that one. He got it. He said, what's wrong with you, man? And he got out of his car. And the guy behind him did who knows what. I wasn't there. It caught my attention. I'm sitting there, and had I not known him, I might have said, hey, get back in the car. Might have even showed him my badge. I was with SAPD at the time. But I saw him, and then he got up and turned around and got back in his car, and I said, okay, it's not going to go any further. One goes one way, one turns the other way. But I'm thinking to myself, what kind of testimony when you're out there downtown, preaching, and you have maybe nobody else knows, but God knows. And that's just an awful thing to have hanging on your shoulder. So I like I said, I don't do it, and I'm not trying to be pious or, like you said, and I really believe this. People that say they're humble, they ain't humble. Yeah. Oh, I'm so humble. I'm like,
well, I'm proud of my humility. I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, I had to eat my words the other day because I was saying some stuff about the CDC, and I was like, I was telling, and I didn't realize that this guy's wife was on some Texas board, CDC, whatever, and yeah, he spit out a whole bunch of numbers, and I was like, okay. Mm-hmm.
Oops.
Yeah, and it sounded like, I said, I still wasn't convinced just because you say something. I'm going to go look, check on it myself. But I remember walking up to him and I said, hey, I appreciate that info. And he said something and I wish I could repeat it because he said it was kind of cool. He goes, I like to be right. I want to be right. He goes, but I like to know that I'm right. And he said it in that way. He says, one thing is to want to be right. The other thing is to know that you're right. And he goes, just think about that. I said, well, I'm still not convinced that you're right because I'm going to do the research myself. And but I appreciate that information. And that right now, I can say that I'm wrong because I was just regurgitating something that I heard on
right. Correct.
Yes. And so without having those numbers, without having, like I say, fact checking, it was hard for me to come back with anything other than, man, yeah, I got whooped on that one. I was like, oh. Yeah, it happens quite often. I have those moments.
Yeah, one thing I would caution anybody, and I mean, it's not that I have that many people listening.
Yeah.
It's very, very few. But anyone that would listen to this, I think, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, and that's fine, but it seems to me that people don't understand how fluid, how dynamic these situations like that one in Minneapolis and many, many like it are. When you go in, this idea that, well, the police could have done this, and they're thinking of how they might grab, a brick off of the ground, or how they might carry a load of laundry across the house. These are human beings, and they're flailing, or they're fighting, or they're moving, and the situation is dynamic with infinite number of variables. And it's really, really hard to say, well, this is what happened, and this is why they did it, and this is what he did.
Yeah, that's... to say that just start accusing him of being a racist is... Unless you just have something else that, that says, hey, this is why he did it. It's hard to, why he did it. Maybe he just wasn't a good person who knows how to de-escalate. Maybe he had his pride, shoved so deep in his pocket he couldn't, pull it out and throw it away. He hung on to something, whatever it was, kept him there. It kept him there, and how do you get out of that? Like you said, and I really did ask. We all ask ourselves that question. If you're with other officers and something happens, you're like, first things out of our mouth, what were you thinking? What was he or she thinking? And it's not just words. You really wondered, what in the world? You gotta believe that that's not whatever it is. It's not just this, but other things. Why would you, do that? Why would you consider taking that risk? Not just on somebody's life, on your career, on even if just a suspension. Saying things these days is going to get you, going to get you knotted up. So it's just amazing to me that people are still making mistakes like that. But I just can't blame it on one thing.
That is strange. You'd think, with they got cameras on them. Everyone's there with cameras. There's cameras everywhere. There's cameras on every store. And these aren't the little grainy Bigfoot cameras, right? They're like the UFO camera that they take. This is like high quality cameras. Yeah. However, like I was going back to what I was saying, people need to understand these situations. You say, well, we know what happened. We saw video. Video is great, but it is far from conclusive.
Well, you say that. So I know many times in training, they show officer, pow, shoots a guy. I don't remember if this particular video was actual video, was a training video. I think it was actual video. They show at that time was just the vehicle. It wasn't body cam. It was
the dash cam.
Right. So, pow, and it looks like, why did you shoot this guy? And you're like, oh, man, this guy's done. Show the other officer. Sure enough, the guy had, and it was a whole different angle, different perspective. Guy has a gun, and I'm sure if, anybody that's listening has, has gone through those, the shoot, don't shoot videos, knows what I'm talking about. It's amazing when you see this. You might be able to even find that on YouTube if it's an actual shooting. Where there's two video cameras and it shows a totally different point of view. This one here, I don't know if you can, the guy's handcuffed.
I understand.
Yeah, so that's why I'm just going back to that. But.
And you're right. We do have to be. I don't want it to sound like I'm trying to say they didn't do anything wrong. That is not what I'm saying. I'm just, and this makes people really upset about me, and that's why a lot of people won't watch the podcast and my wife gets real mad at me about this because she says that I argue like both sides. Or all the sides. I'll argue them all. And that people get mad. And they get mad because they say they don't know what side I'm on. Because I argue one side, and they're like, and then I'll argue the other side, and I'll argue all the sides. And I'm trying to argue them all fairly. And if you don't know what side I'm on right now, then I'm doing my job right.
Yeah.
Because I'm not saying I support the officers, or I support Mr. Floyd, I want to look at it from all the different angles and try to give each side its due. Even the devil, give the devil his due. Every side, look at it fairly. And so I know that because I do some amount of video, got a little ant running around.
It's from that sugar, that cupcake I got in my pocket.
They're wondering why they followed you in your little trail of them. I do video. I do this, which is video, and I do some video editing. I'm not by no means a professional, but I do some. And I'll tell you this: you think, and I'm mainly speaking to the audience, but you think when you look at video, you're looking at a 3D representation. You say we can see everything. You're not. You are looking at a two-dimensional representation. Mm-hmm. You do not see everything. There is a tremendous amount of things that you cannot see in video. A lot of things you can't see. So you got to be very careful thinking that because of something you saw in video, we need a certain result out of that. We need a certain justice has to come from that. We know now what it is, and it has to. This is why this has to be adjudicated in court.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it could be worse than what we saw. So I'm not just saying it could be better for them. It could be worse than what we saw. What if it comes out that this guy knew him from that club, had a beef with him, targeted him, and murdered him in cold blood, and used the cop and got all the other cops that don't know that this is going on, and they're now implicated in it. Yeah. So he's ruined their life. I'm not just saying it could be better than what we saw. It could be 100 times worse than what we saw.
Right. Understood. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I didn't think about that at all. Yeah.
There's no way. The point is we don't know, and we need, and I say we don't need to know, but the court needs to know. Whoever's is ordained by God to adjudicate this situation, they need to know all the facts. Because if it's worse than what we think, then the punishment needs to be worse.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. It's again. There's no way other way around it. Regardless of because of the outcome, whether it was worse or it's just a bad thing, and it's this is another scar to policing. There's been some things that we've done to ourselves. There's an officer, he's retired now, and he used to say, the more you know policemen, the more you get to dislike them. He used to say that quite often. Now, I know policemen, and most of my my friends were at least that, the core group. And then I've managed to have other friends. And then people would look at my buddies and go, man, you hang around with that guy? He's got a tattoo of an eyeball, on back of his head. Why would you, tote around with a guy like that? No, I didn't hang around, if I knew they were the criminal type, I didn't. But just because a person has tattoos, I mean, look at my son. I mean, my goodness, he's running out of skin. But
we love you, Justin.
Yeah.
Shout out to you.
Yeah. But I mean, I've had people ask me that. Yeah, my best friend's not a police officer. He didn't make it. I beat him at 2 points. But I consider him my best friend only because the longevity. I talked to him today for the first time in probably a month, but we've always kept it like that. I think it keeps us friends. We really don't have much in common other than our childhood. Where we came from. His dad. I used to when I moved out. Let's see, how did that work? When I moved out of my house, my mom. Let's see, I would call it necessarily throwing out. I just kind of forcefully got moved out. So that's who I lived with, and his dad. I didn't have a dad at home, so he was one of the male figures that I looked up to. Hardworking, married for years and years and years. My best friend, he had a good son, and and that was my best friend. So I figured, hey, this guy, and he's giving me a place to live. I had to pay, but had to do some things to earn my spot there because you weren't doing it for free, and but that was one of the things that that I looked up to was that kind of male figure. But anyway, I got off the beaten path there a little bit.
No, but I think I really appreciate your perspective on this. I was really, we had planned to do this later on in the month, and I wanted to get you in here when because this kind of is, it's in your wheelhouse, and it's certainly not in mine, but it's something I thought it'd be good to discuss. I know a lot of people are very emotional right now about it. They have a lot of just a lot of confusion about it, not knowing how to think and process it. And I'm not sure that you and I are any experts to give them away, but maybe, what you had to say was helpful to someone. I hope it was. It was to me. And I really, really appreciate you taking the time to come in and talk about all this. And I appreciate your service and your friendship that we've had over the years. And
wow, it's been a while, right?
It's been a long time. Been friends for a long time. And I appreciate your support in the ministry and everything. So thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I'm glad you didn't have anybody else, did you? Everybody else told you no, right?
The fifth.
Everybody else said no, didn't they?
I was telling Terry, I'm always amazed. I ask people to come on the show, to do this show, and I only have like 4 viewers or 5 viewers or whatever it is. And they come on and they're all happy to come on. They're all like nervous and excited. I'm thinking, nobody's watching this. This is like, and Terry says it's because it's the closest they're ever going to get to a podcast, a real podcast.
Yeah. I've never actually, other than, my shot at singing, and you fixed that really quick.
Your shot at singing.
Yeah, I've never talked into a microphone where I can actually hear myself. So
it's fun, isn't it?
Yeah, when I hear myself on a recording, I sound like a duck. Whenever I hear myself on this thing.
Oh no, you sound like a duck. No. Yeah, that's reality. These are good microphones. You're getting a fair representation.
Oh, well,
you get used to it. When I first started doing it and hearing myself, you're like, oh, you get used to it.
Yeah, so it's not too bad. I mean,
no, you did great.
I enjoyed it.
It's fun. It's been almost 3 hours.
Yeah, I think you were right. It goes by quick.
It goes by real fast. We'll get you back on. We'll talk more about your horses. I want to talk more about
we
horses.
Didn't get a chance.
No, we didn't get to it. We'll get to it.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
thanks for coming in, Albert. It's great to see you, and God bless you. Thank you for your testimony and your service.
God bless you.